Okay. Is that better?
I can see the room, yes.
Can't see anybody there, but you can see the room.
Are you pointing at the ceiling, Brian?
No, I can see, as far in the,
Front row?
handful of folks. Ellen, I can see Ellen squinting at me a little bit, it looks like. So, I can't see who's, here in the seats around you all. I can see Aaron's laptop, I believe, and I see a hand coming from someone on the right side of my screen, which I believe might have been Kathy I saw on the way by. Is Aaron present over
You can go
there? Same place?
There's an outlet over there.
Terry's arm then, possibly.
We're gonna try to move. We're gonna try to move you and see if it works better.
I just don't know. I bet I'll find something. Oh, it's fun. It's not a bad job. It doesn't pay very well.
But it's fun.
It's
What do you go for fishing for?
catfish, flathead.
That's gotta be taken up. Would think that would give him a better view of the room if he was stepped down still a little bit.
Why is the cord always on the wrong side?
I don't know.
Just to cause you problems.
It's never on the side.
Okay, and tilt him down a little bit. There.
I'm at the ceiling now.
Hold on, man. I'm working. Hang on.
That's the first time I've
closer.
all day.
Where's Hobby?
Yeah, I can see Aaron, Harry, and Kathy.
Okay,
So everyone.
Well, it's a little better anyway.
great, good.
Okay.
But if you could slide it just a little, tilt it a little bit to your right when you're facing it.
If you just get in your car and come up here,
Wonderful, great, good there. I know it's that.
I won't be able to hear anybody.
Not touching it.
All right.
I think we can ready.
Christy has a grandbaby.
I think we're ready, Brian.
Fabulous. Wearing out though, but
That's all right.
great.
All right. Is everyone ready to start?
I think we are.
Think we are?
All right. Well, I'd like to call to order, and if I can get maybe Miss Kathy, if you will lead us in the pledge as we stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to look for a motion for the consent agenda tonight. Minutes of May 26th, June bills totaling $383,067.18. Monthly finance report, the final bus routes for the 2019 and 20 school year.
Maybe 20. No? Okay. I'm always the wrong direction. So moved.
Brian, I'll second that, but I had an addition to make to the agenda. Oh, sorry, I'm a step ahead. I'm a step ahead. I'm cool. Second.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. I need a motion to adopt the regular agenda. It sounds like Aaron has an addition to the agenda.
Yeah, one small addition. I will so move. My addition, well, I'll move with my addition. I wanted to let everyone know that I will be I wanted to give an update about the MSBA delegate assembly that's happening later this week, and that's all. Not an action item, just an information item.
Okay.
That's going to be added under new business item E, MSBA update. New business item E, MSBA update. So,
Yeah, thank you. Any more additions?
we need a second.
Item E.
Tim second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I now need a motion to certify the June 2nd election results.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And at this time, I'm going to let Dr. Mayor recognize the board members that will be coming off, and we will let Linda install the new officers and swear them in. All right, swear in the new candidates, excuse me, our members of the board.
Tim, it's been a great pleasure for me to work with you. I appreciate it. Are we supposed to?
I'll shake your hand.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm not too big in the COVID crisis.
Tim and Kathy, I'd like to thank you all for your work as well. I'll be speaking with you all privately.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure, Kathy. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you both very much.
Thank you, Tim.
Can I have the meeting members come forward?
Ryan, are you there with us?
Yes, sir.
I was asking Ryan Trotnick if he could hear me.
Sorry, he's
Okay. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Missouri, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of school director in and for the School District of Marshall, County of Saline, State of Missouri, to the best of your ability according to law?
I will.
And you can just take a seat. Somewhere.
Did he join us? Ryan?
He did. He joined, yeah.
Not at all. Look forward to it. We do have a couple things in common.
I'm not sure if you got.
We'll be moved anyway.
And where's the other?
Well, I'm on Smith Mike.
Oh, Brett.
Good luck. I'm good. How are you?
All right.
Can you get over there and put that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
There's no way I get my seat moved so I don't have to vote first all the time. Why didn't we let somebody with an A or a B? You know I keep messing that up.
You know, you sit down in a chair, that's your chair for the next 3 years.
Either that or could I make a motion that we go backwards? Then you have to go first.
Doesn't make sense anymore. Doesn't make sense anymore.
At this time, I would entertain nominations for the office of President of the Board of Education, the Marshall Public Schools Board of Education.
I would like to nominate Aaron for president of the board.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion, any other nomination? This is a roll call vote? I mean, not a roll call vote, it's just a hand. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Congratulations, Aaron. You may come up and take over.
He's still trying to get in his microphone and his camera's not working. He's at his kids' ball game and he's doing it by phone from the road.
Okay.
He's gonna try here. He's still working on it.
All right.
There you go.
Everybody hear me okay? I know the mask is a bit of a barrier, but I thought better safe than sorry. Okay, so,
I'm going to get anything in case the press needs it.
quite all
Can you
right.
hear me, Ryan?
Yes.
Sorry, I feel like we're shutting. Where's the?
Big shuffle. All right, well, to keep this moving right along,
Sorry.
Where's his?
I don't need a label.
She goes,
I'll trade you quickly.
That was quick.
That was slick.
Not what that's not what I bit off to choose.
There you go.
There you go, Erin.
What has happened? Okay. Then we need nominations for the office of Vice President of the Board.
I would like to nominate Harry Carroll for Vice President, please.
And do we have any other nominations? A second?
I second.
Other nominations? Comment? Discussion? Well then, I believe it's time to vote. By voice vote? Okay. All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Well, Harry.
Do I get to move my seat?
Next time you will, Harry, and then you will no longer be voting first.
Thank you.
Now, you see what we've done for you? Yes. All right, we need nominations for treasurer, for the office of treasurer of the Board of Education. Is it possible to nominate someone in absentia? Can we nominate Ed? I suppose he could refuse it later.
He's the
He's the current treasurer, which is the reason I asked, yeah.
Well, I'd like to nominate Ed.
Absolutely. I second that.
Any other nominations or discussion? When I used to teach, I would sing the Jeopardy theme song in my head when I asked if there were any questions. All right, well then, by voice vote, all those in favor of electing Ed Harper to the office of treasurer, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. And we need to nominate a secretary for the Board of Education, and all ayes look. Do we have any nominations?
I nominate Linda.
And do
She's
we,
got the tag already.
and do we have a second?
I do have a second, and can we open that up for discussion?
Go right ahead.
So I'd like to propose, and I don't know if this is something that we can do, but have Linda for our open meetings as secretary, and then nominate someone for our closed meeting that is actual board member.
Do we, sometimes you're not, you weren't with us, for example, for the board retreat, right? Sometimes we have an appointed meeting or a minute taker. Could we have you as secretary and then have a meeting taker during closed session? Would that be?
I don't know what our policy says. I think there is a policy in this.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not aware.
It sounds like that's, I don't think there's anyone else we want to nominate. But that's something then for us to look into. Christy, let me add that to the list to get some answers about, so closed session, we would have.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking for privacy policy, protection is, she is an employee of the school, and I think that just protects people.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll look into the policy, and if it's possible, then it might not even take any kind of a special vote. It might just be something that we do, right?
I can't remember that from any of the training or anything.
Yeah.
You'll ask the question when you go through your training.
Oh, there we go, yeah. Well, surely we've got a policy about it on staff. I have a feeling it's the feedback from Brian's mic.
Ask him if he'll turn off his mic.
Or his phone, yeah.
And then they would answer.
But if we need to hear Brian, how will we hear from him?
It may be Ryan's mic.
I'd say it's his phone.
Ryan, is your phone?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. We're getting a little bit of feedback. Can you mute just for a second till we get to you?
Yes, I can.
Thanks.
Okay.
That's terrible.
Do you want me to go take a look at that quickly? Because
That would be fine.
won't you need to figure that out now?
I have a feeling that we'll be electing Linda to be board secretary regardless.
Erin, are you the current MSBA delegate?
I am, which is why I am signed up to go to the assembly later on. And I certainly, we haven't gotten there yet on the agenda, of course, but I anticipated staying on.
Okay. Well, that's the next thing after the secretary. We could do it here, and I can nominate you to be our MSBA.
It's true. But we do have,
Then you can do the discussion when we get to it.
but we've got a nomination open on the floor for Linda.
That wasn't seconded.
Oh, yes, it was.
Was it seconded?
Yeah.
Okay, pay attention to that. So we're in discussion.
Currently in discussion. But it might be something that we want to set aside for the sake of time. I don't know how long it will take Dr. Mayer to look through the policies.
She probably knows right where to go. I mean, that's probably sectioned out shortly. I didn't bring mine with me. Oh, that's how you
It is a good question. I mean, I'm very unfamiliar with boards, having board members as secretaries. Our way of doing it has a nice, has its benefits too, but certainly for the sake of closed session, I could see how that might help to keep lines of communication clear. I don't know.
Well, actually, it's not elected, it's appointed, so.
Oh, it's not? No, oh, the MSBA. Yes, yes.
Can I climb on here? Linda, maybe after the meeting, can we share a Wi-Fi password with us? That'd be awesome.
Ellen, it's right on that piece of paper behind us.
Oh, there it is. Yep.
Can you see it?
I can.
There's an exclamation point that I dropped once and it's kind of shoved in there somewhere.
Okay, I got it. It's asking me for a username. It's kind of
That
weird.
I can.
I'll get out. I'll get out.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I can do it later.
We'll get you guys all, Marshall, if you don't have them already, none of you would have one, so we'll get you Marshall email.
We got them all. We all got them
You
set
got
up.
'em already?
Yeah, Linda's on top of it. Or Chrissy hasn't set it
That
up.
would be that's what it's asking you for, is your Marshall log, or
Probably E-Lance, maybe.
probably E-Lance is probably what they're asking.
I'll try that.
Yeah,
Just
Yeah.
makes me function a little better.
yeah.
Thanks.
Email's working all right?
So just the E-Lance, you think?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
set mine up till late, so I've just had it for a couple
My
of days.
email's working great.
Yeah, it's fine to me. I prefer the email over anything.
I'm gonna get dizzy looking back there. I'll fix it.
Nothing wrong, I keep working with this.
Excuse me. I'll do this later.
Says here, that it does address confidentiality here.
That's Brian, I've muted truck.
He didn't know how to-
I know, what's going on at Brian's house, something's feedback on us.
Oh, there we have it, yeah. If the board requests the board secretary to leave, this is item number 1. This is appointed board officials under this policy. Duties of the board secretary, item number 1, be present at all regular and special board meetings, and at the request of a committee chair, attend meetings. So, attendance, right? If the board requests the board secretary to leave or not attend a meeting, the alternate secretary will serve as the board secretary, or the board will designate a temporary secretary for the meeting. So it sounds like that's,
That we could have an alternate?
Absolutely.
I think it's, good for Linda to be protected and employees
Absolutely.
at the same time.
Absolutely.
I think she does a great job, and I would love to keep her on, but I think it's a really good idea.
it seems like anything we can do to help instill trust and protect our staff, I think is what we should do.
So I would like to propose that, to elect Linda as our open session secretary, and for an alternate, Ellen Lance to do the closed session.
So since an alternate isn't on the agenda, we can certainly vote for the secretary right now, and there may, after all, be meetings at which Ellen can't be present. So we could instead have it as sort of
Designated with a name at the specific meeting.
right, yeah. So we could say at the given meeting. It says, or the board will designate a temporary secretary for the meeting. So we could, if Ellen's willing to kind of volunteer and step in. That's fine. Okay. So I hear no.
Ryan, we're getting some feedback from your
Yeah.
mic.
Are we,
Thanks.
although
So I think we're getting some feedback.
we're just now
from
going to
your mic.
open it up and make sure that we are doing discussion.
I can hardly hear the first one.
I know, I'm wondering if you can hear me okay. It sounds like we're probably ready to vote for Linda. So, all those in favor of electing Linda Perkins as our board secretary?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you once again, Linda. Okay. And now we need to appoint an MSBA delegate and alternate. Thank you, Dr. Bear. As for the delegate, let me preface this by saying I am currently our MSBA alternate. Kathy Green was our delegate. The duties, for those of you who are new, the duties usually, if you're the delegate, you are our representative to the Missouri School Board Association's annual convention. You're encouraged to participate in regional activities, perhaps to serve on committees, as Kathy did. The alternate is the person who then steps in if the regular delegate can't attend the meetings. But otherwise, the alternate just kind of learns from what's going on with the delegate. I certainly don't mind stepping in to be the delegate. I'm having been the alternate. It seems like a natural thing since we have so many new people, and MSBA kind of suggests that a new person not be the full delegate. However, I am not the only standing member of I'm not the only recurring member. I'm not the only not new member of the board. So here's where we open up the floor for nominations.
So one of my questions, can we discuss?
Please.
So how active as far as, or how much time is involved in that outside of your workday? That would be.
It's relatively negligible. At about this time of year, the emails start to kick up because the convention's going on.
Sure.
And they want to make sure you're.
I'm sorry for interrupting, but really it's kind of up to you, the person, as to how much they want to be involved. You can be very involved, or you can help set up the regional meeting when it occurs at your school.
I see.
So, kind of up to the person.
Okay.
So since they should suggest not a new board member being the actual delegate, Ryan, are you interested in the actual delegate position?
No, not exceptionally, no.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So then, Aaron, if you have the time, I know Ellen's expressed being a delegate, but if that is something, just because of time, I know you're going to be busy, you've got some things on the side, so.
Well, we don't have to listen to MSBA.
If she wanted to be the actual delegate and we're comfortable with that, I think that would be wonderful. I think that she'd be good at that position.
Ellen, any thoughts?
I mean, not necessarily. I have lots of experience working at the state level, so I'd be happy to, I work pretty closely with a lot of the things that are happening on, day to day, so I'm fine with that, I think. I'm also fine with alternate. I'm not throwing my hat in necessarily because either one is fine with me.
I was going to say, I would be happy to work with Ellen on that if that's something you all would like me to do.
So it sounds like Ellen for delegate and Brian for alternative?
Yeah. Is this, so we should vote on this. This is part of an action item, even though it has them as both. So we will treat these together since they're on the same line.
I think all we have to do is confirm that it's appointed by the president.
Okay. Well then, do we need special language for that, Harry? to confirm? Do we need special language for that to
I
confirm?
don't think so. You make the appointment and we confirm.
Okay, well then Ellen Lance is hereby appointed as our MSBA delegate and Brian Jakes as alternate. All right.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'll let you go.
Okay. We're going to move on to item 7, communication from the public. We have Ryan Trotnick from Excel Constructors.
Ryan, are you coming in all right there, Ryan?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. You don't need to make a phone call to me. So, I had a couple of, we have some new board members, and I had a couple of those board members ask if we could get a little update. He spoke last month, but of course, we've had some things happen since then, but, so I asked Ryan, who's a spokesperson for Excel, to come back, give us a little more update, and then if you had any questions at that time, Ryan, if you also want to give us a brief update, we'll see if anybody has any questions.
Sure. So I was up there about a week ago. Obviously met with you. Actually had some rain that day, but since then, roofing has proceeded. I think we're about roughly a third done with the roofing. The air barrier has been applied to the block. They're laying brick as we speak, or we're laying brick today. The mansard trusses are going on. The canopy is set, and they will be bringing the mansard trusses around to tie into that canopy. The dirt and utility contractors should be back out there, I believe, either tail end of this week, next week, to make the short little water line tie into the building and set a fire hydrant as well. What else is going on? All the interior work that you may not be able to see is what's going on. We are hangers in. Duct work is showing up. I think there was 5 plumbers there the other day, or yesterday when I talked to Dell, there was 5 plumbers, 5 HVAC guys. Fire sprinkler rough-in is commencing. I believe there was 5 or 6 electricians working yesterday. So all the rough-in, all the stuff that's going on inside the building is coming around and getting rolling really well now. So the next big stand for the next big thing that we have to accomplish is getting the building dried in, which I think we're a couple weeks away from. The glazer, storefront glazer will be there tomorrow with his crew to start putting windows in. So that's kind of where we stand at the moment. I hope you can all hear that.
Yes, we can hear.
Okay.
All right. So, I'm sure, Mr. Trotnick, thank you for that. I'm sure we'll have questions, so I'm going to open it up.
This is Matt Smith. I just wanted to know, has your timeline moved up any from the September that you talked about at the last meeting?
I think you asked if I had seen anything change in the timeline that I gave you last week. To this point, I don't think so. I think we're still heading in that direction. I think that's still where we're at, I'm hoping. We did miss a day or two because of this tropical depression that rolled in over top of us, but we're going to try to make up for it and make it up with working an extra Saturday here, working late. I know the roofers have been putting in long days, so we're going to try to make up for that one.
This is Ellen Lance, when you say September, or you said September last month, are you talking like September 1? Are you talking September 15th? Are you talking September 30th? I know it's a little hard to estimate, yes, but when we're looking at preparing for a district, 2 weeks is a huge difference.
Yeah, the schedule that I put together was I believe the first or second week of September was kind of turnover date. Now there's also there's some time built in there for doing some punch list stuff. Some of that we can maybe give you guys a building sooner and kind of work with your people as far as them getting their stuff in as well, so we're not.
Okay.
We can overlap some of that a little bit.
Okay.
This is Christy Varner, and have you and Dr. Lorenz discussed a change of order to amend the contract on an actual date that this will be finished? Typically, that happens on any contract that we have missed some rain days, that we can actually have a new date set so we can amend that contract to be actually in black and white.
Terry, I'm gonna have to have you relay that one to me. There's a lot of feedback on that. I'm sorry.
She's just asking about the possibility of changing the contract to show a new anticipated completion date.
I have not. I could issue a change order request for the date change, so we have an actual paperwork trail. A lot of times, as I give you guys updated schedules bi-weekly, that's kind of how we chase that. But if you'd like to do that, we can do that.
I think that would be great. Then it actually gives our teachers some security of knowing when they're going to be in their classrooms, and it helps the community know where we're at too. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there has been a lack of clarity about the fact that the building is running late on construction in the community. I had some people some community members who had read about it in the newspaper, whom it was not reported that it was running late.
Right.
So we need to do everything we can to make that clear so that we can set reasonable expectations. Yeah. Okay.
The progress that you guys have made in the last week, though, definitely it has been tremendous, and thank you.
That looks great. Looking better.
Did you catch that?
The part of the job we're in right now is a part of the job where progress isn't always seen because it's all happening underneath the deck inside the building or steel and all that. And all of it, there's a lot of things you can do. Like once one thing starts, shortly after that you can start something that has to happen, and they can run in tandem together. The thing about like roofing and masonry is they have to be complete before the next step can happen, and steel has to be complete before you can start putting the roof on. So those things look slow, and we have made a lot of strides in the last couple of weeks, I think, which is great, and we finally kind of crested that hill where we can really start throwing more manpower at it to try to get more done in a shorter period of time.
Right. Thank you.
And Mr. Trotnick, this is Dr. Meyer again. When can we expect that amendment to the contract? Are we talking about a week? Are we talking about days?
Terry, can you relay that to me?
She asked when we might expect that amended contract.
I can issue you a change order next week, next 2 days.
Okay.
Put it together and get it to you.
Would the change order have a specific date?
That's a good idea. No, I'm not sure that's a good idea.
I don't think
Change the
that's-
contract.
Terrible idea, because right now he's liable $1,000 after they resolve that.
I don't
After the 50 days of missed work. So after October the 9th and 12th, that's when the penalty would start kicking in.
So Harry, right now,
Can you update that, Terry?
What's that? I'm sorry? Say it
The
again.
total amount of days we've lost since we started the project.
Yeah.
I think it was somewhere around
we're 50
60
days
some,
over, so if we don't
195
have a
days, so
change, they're not going to count them, so we need to set that in
Yeah.
stone.
See where you're going.
Yeah.
All right, you got me. I'm with you.
But can they do that with a change order?
Yeah,
Yeah, you can do anything.
they can do an amendment and a change.
But I guess I've read over this contract, I don't see anything in there about giving them padding for days missed because of weather
They're not in here.
or anything else.
Work days? Missed work days?
Missed work
It
days.
says $1,000 a day, and
Yeah, I know.
But I'd have to go back and look.
I haven't seen it. I've looked through it. And it's just, it calls for substantial completion done by August 3rd, which is basically a turnover where we can use the building. And then after that, it's $1,000 a day.
We have a board member questioning the original August 3rd, that he doesn't see the missed workday section showing up. I don't have my contract in front of me.
His owner's contract has it, yes, and there's a abbreviated version, and there's a lot of papers that fill in the gaps in the contract. It's a standard AIA document.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also usually in the specifications a standard amount of weather days that the architect puts in, and I don't have all that in front of me.
So is there a,
Lunch baseball game, but I can get that stuff pulled together if you'd like to review that more thorough.
well, Dr. Mayor, do you have a copy of the full contract? All I'm seeing, I don't need it right this second, but I could look at it later. All of us
I
might.
sent you the digital copy that I had. I have no idea whether it's an abbreviated one or not, so.
I didn't assume that it was, but if that's what he's alluding to, then we're missing pages out of this document. We're missing information out of this document because this would be the abbreviated one. It might be helpful for us to see, if you could get us the,
Ryan, I'll work with you tomorrow, and we will talk about pulling together the contract and the sections that they're questioning.
and then this might be something after we've had a chance to look at it to bring up at the special meeting. Is that possible?
Yeah, let's put that- Linda, can we put
I was
that
gonna
on
bring it up
the
in executive session.
Well, we can do that too, but just so we're certain we get to.
Yeah, I'm just making notes, hold on.
I think it would be reasonable to have copies of the executed contracts, the abbreviated and the full one, in our inboxes this week. They exist, they're on somebody's computer.
I don't think the full one is on the computer. That's the only one that I
Who
have.
makes
but
the
I'll-
final determination? He writes this out as missed days. Who makes that final determination?
But correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but the architect gets copies of when those, the architects, engineers, and the constructor gets the same contact when there's a missed workday, correct?
Bit of contract if you can't make it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry, turn it away a little bit. He was asking who makes the final determination about a workday or not workday?
Well, I mean, generally, it's agreed upon based on rain and site conditions of the following days. I mean, all the weather obviously gets recorded pretty well. We take a daily report. We put how many days or how many people are on the site that day. And then if it's raining all day or if it's raining 4 inches, the next day we may not be able to work either.
Right.
It's so muddy, or it's, everything's saturated, whatever the reason is. That's all we track daily, day to day, and all those can be, backed up with, obviously, the historical data that the weather station would keep, or even an online weather report type situation.
Did I answer that for you, Harry? Was that good?
No, well, yeah, it's an answer. For the job, you can't come.
It also depends on what stage of work we're in. If we're inside painting and it rains outside, that's one thing. If it snows 4 inches and it's 8 degrees outside, you can't lay block, you can't pour concrete, you can't move dirt. It also depends on what part of the construction you're in.
Yeah, the key is to get it covered. So that you can move inside.
Yeah.
I'm singing Jeopardy in my head again to make sure we don't have any more questions.
No, I think that's good. I think we need to see the contract, knowing that those days are there. Dr. Mayer and Dr. T both told me that those days of weather is there, so without an actual new date of change, then that actually leaves us in limbo as a district. So we want to consolidate that date, but however, we want to verify that in a contract to know that that exists, and if it does, then we want to move forward with the change, and if it doesn't, then obviously we don't want to change it, because then the contractor's going to end up owing us.
Maybe. Always nice to have somebody in real estate around.
Okay. Any other questions before we let
No,
Ryan
I'm
go back to his
finished.
baseball game?
Thank you.
Let me restate where we're at then, okay? If you don't mind, Dr. Lorenz.
Yeah, I'm writing down notes as you go.
Let me state where we're at. Okay, so it sounds like the board can expect to receive the full copy of the executed contract within this calendar week. Is that reasonable?
He'll initiate it, correct, but he may not have control when he gets it back, correct? When he has somebody that's writing that for him. Getting us receiving it in this calendar week might be a little much.
I mean, the one that
No, the
already
actual
exists.
executed
No,
contract.
I'm with you, I'm with you. Okay.
We should be able to have that.
The already existing one.
An abbreviated one?
And then the amendment could be to us, it sounds like within 2 weeks?
Yeah, he said, well, once we get that, so if we have our special meeting and we have all that taken care of then, then I think shortly after that, within 4 business days, we could have it taken care of, I would imagine.
Okay.
I think that's reasonable.
Yep, all right. Any final questions, comments, concerns?
Good luck at baseball.
Mr. Trotnick, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Ryan.
I appreciate it, guys. Terry, I'll touch base with you tomorrow.
Okay.
Kind of a summary of everything you want from me. Some of that was a little bit troubled up, but I think
Okay.
I'm sure that's true.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Let's move on now to item 8, reports. We have first up, MHS Principals Report with Mr. Ian Verts.
Good evening, guys. I'm here to visit with you guys just briefly about some of the plans for prom and graduation. Obviously, we had to adjust those plans and those dates that we communicated out at the end of April, beginning of May, for June 25th and 27th are upon us. Next week, prom will be held on June 25th, and graduation is scheduled to be held on June 27th. It's a Saturday at 6 p.m.
Give me that one more time.
Yeah. So prom is scheduled at this time to be held at 8 p.m. on June 25th, and graduation is scheduled to be held on June 27th at 6 p.m. at the MHS football stadium, as we traditionally hold it there. Current consideration and recommendations for prom and graduation. I've been in correspondence with the health department, and the latest information is that Saline County COVID numbers are trending in a positive direction. There are no limitations in the state of Missouri in regards to numbers at gatherings. We would recommend, or we would like for everyone to consider social distancing as it's still being a very important thing and a responsibility for each individual. And that's what I would like to emphasize here is personal responsibility for attendance and hygiene. And so everybody has to take that on, ownership of that for themselves. None of these events are required or expected for completion of graduation or for fulfilling any obligations other than prom for kind of the rites of passage for teenagers and for their families. Same way with graduation. There's something about that people want, and I want that for them. I want that for our kids if we're able to do it safely. There will be disposable masks and hand sanitizer available at both events. We are not going to require anyone at this time to wear masks or to use sanitizer. Again, it will be a personal responsibility of the individuals that are in attendance. We will take measures at our prom or at our graduation event to spread the chairs out a little more than we normally do for our students. It's going to be difficult to maintain a traditional ceremony with ultimate viewing angles for our families and friends if we spread it out too far, but we will use the space that we have and that we feel comfortable with, and I will have all those things in order before the students arrive. Now, one thing that we're going to want to do, and I didn't necessarily want to get into all this tonight, but I will touch on just a piece of it, something that's very near and dear to our students' hearts and to our staff members' hearts is our senior send-off. It's a huge event at Marshall High School where traditionally we would gather in the last days that the students would be with us, and we would share a moment of recognizing each child as they walk through a line, and then they are able to socialize with their teachers and other staff members that kind of form a line for them to go between. And it gives me goosebumps talking about it. It's probably one of the best things that we do at Marshall Public Schools. And I'm very proud of it, and I would like to keep that for our kids. I know they really want it, and our staff members really want it, if we can do it safe. We're going to attempt to do that at 4:30 prior to graduation. And so there's 2 proms here.
That's awesome.
There's 2 proms here. So we're going to try and pull them in at 4:30 on the 27th. Graduation starts at 6. And so traditionally we would have a walkthrough on the Friday before graduation. We're unable to do that at this point, but we will have a walkthrough including a senior send-off social event. It'll be a little modified because we are going to keep it closed off. It's only going to be graduates that are coming into the gym and staff members, and they'll be allowed to do their we'll announce the students that are there, and we'll allow for them to have their conversations in a safe distance from staff members. And then we'll kind of do a little walkthrough, and then we'll get ready to go for graduation at 6 o'clock, which we will walk out to the parking lot like we normally do, come around the south end of the track, and begin to sit. One change that we will have is the band will not play this year. I talked with Mrs. Summers, and she loves doing that, and she wants to be a part of that. Unfortunately, due to our changes and the changes that were put in front of us, they have a family vacation that they were already planning to be on, and they're not going to be in town. I do want to highlight our band students the best that we possibly can. And so I'm not quite sure how we're going to do that, but we are going to recognize them, and we're going to play an audio clip for graduation as far as bringing our students out. So that's kind of the gist of that. There's one area that I want the expertise of all you leaders is after the event, a lot of the graduations that I have inquired about and had conversations with other principals about, they have controlled after the event. For instance, traditionally at Marshall High School, after the hats are thrown, so to speak, the families gather on the field for pictures with friends and family and all of that. What other schools have done in this situation is they have closed off that access and said, we're going to walk back into the school as we came out. They're going to gather their items that they left in there because they always bring things with them when they come for that initial walkthrough. And then we'll dismiss them to the parking lot to go be with their families and hopefully do those gatherings in a different place. And so that way we don't have a crowd of people on the field for an extended period of time. So I would be open to suggestions for that. I'm open to any angle on that. I can, I'm just thinking about students that don't really have a choice if there's a rush of people coming in and they don't have a choice to move away from that. Maybe they were okay with the event, but then they're not okay that there was 10 families standing around them.
I'm going to step back and ask you one other question about the operations of the day, and that might impinge on how we think about what to do afterward. Are you going to bring back all of the teachers to help man the lines?
We're going to do our absolute best to get volunteers to help us.
Okay.
Well, what I will assure you is that we will adapt and overcome and make sure that we have an outstanding event for our kids and for their families. It does take a lot of people and manpower to monitor and make that happen. I've been in contact with our SROs in regards to the police department helping us as well, like they do on Friday night football games. Not so much because we're afraid somebody's going to do something crazy, as it is much about being able to spread the word that we want as far as direction and flow of traffic and things like that.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have that in place, and of course we're going to extend that invitation to all of our teachers. I didn't really want to put this send off information out here, but I think it's fair to our families to understand that we're going to request a little bit more of their time on that Sunday because we want to provide that experience for them.
Yeah.
So.
I'm sure you won't have any problem getting teacher volunteers.
Oh, no.
I just wanted to know
Our
if
teachers
that
are
was
chomping at the bit to see their kids. They miss them. You know, it's a big deal.
Okay. All right. That's
The
fine.
kids are ready for closure also, so I think that's great. I think looking at, Ian, I'm glad you said that about a kiddo might not be uncomfortable at the event, but they might be uncomfortable if somebody, if 10 of us rush at them. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to take the kids back inside, and then they're free to go and gather as they choose. That way somebody can walk into an environment that they're comfortable in. If that's where there are 10 families standing, then great. If it's where they're 6 feet apart, then great. It certainly gives them personal control. And it offers a certain level of comfort for everybody that will be there, I think.
It's for our staff members too. We do have a few staff members that, I don't want to point to any persons, but there are staff members that may be concerned in certain situations where they're not in others.
Sure.
And so we want to be just cognizant of that for everyone. And so not only for our students, but also our patrons. And I know it's difficult because it's different than what we've done in the past. Some of the feedback that I've received in regards to some of the prom planning, big shout out to Amanda Van Winkle. She's done a tremendous job helping us navigate this. And this is a stipend position that's went on for an extra month.
Right.
And so I really appreciate her dedication to this, and every decision that she's made has been in the interest of students And so I really appreciate that. And she and I had a tough decision to make about walk-ins. It was voted on amongst the junior class prom committee, 26-4, in favor of moving the event to Jackson's Event Center, in favor of not having it in our commons. There's a multitude of reasons, and I have them all listed here, but I'm not going to bore you with them. And I want to emphasize that these are not district funds; these are fundraise funds. The junior class has sold homecoming T-shirts. They've had a pancake breakfast. They painted parking spots. They've worked 3 separate football games. Thank you, Booster Club, for supporting them. And that's not easy work, and it requires parents and students to put in time for that. And so those people who served on the committee and that put in time for that are very supportive of this event moving to a different location. It also allows for us to be environmentally responsible, as we will not have to have cheap decorations that are put up for a day and then thrown away. We will also not have to buy expensive ones and store them in our facilities. And the last thing on that is there'll be less waste in regards to just throwaway materials. Jackson's going to provide the things necessary in order to keep our food hot and things along those lines, whereas if we had it here, yes, we do have a kitchen, but some of our materials that we'd have to use, we'd have to throw away. For instance, Amanda could give you a lot more information on that, but as far as the food product will be our only waste. The trash that comes with the food.
That's great.
There will be food and beverages at this event for our students, which seems like a basic thing, but it's last year I was told that there was
nothing.
There was a little water there.
I served it.
And we shared one of those the year before, Aaron, and I remember it was a little bit difficult, but you only have the funds that you have. And so I'm very proud of their fundraising efforts. I'm very proud that this event is still continuing on despite all of the hurdles that we faced, and I'm really excited to move forward with it. In addition, I would like to share with you guys that we will need 2 custodians from the district at both of these events. And I would prefer to have some female and a male that could be at the bathrooms, and their responsibility are the bathrooms. And if somebody uses the bathroom, then we go in and we sanitize the bathroom. And so they would be available for both of these events throughout the entirety of both events, which would, traditionally, we would have a custodian in our own facilities that would not only be there before the event started, they would work the event, and then they would clean up after the event. Well, they're not cleaning up out there. They would simply be working during the event to ensure that our bathrooms are safe for our students and staff.
The 25th from 8 to what?
8 p.m. to 11 p.m.
8 to 11. And then the 27th would be?
I think they need to be there, but at least by 5 o'clock.
5.
To make sure that everything's in order. 5 to probably
7:30?
7:30.
7,
yeah.
okay.
So what would the custodians be doing again?
They would be cleaning the restrooms and any small cleanup detail that we may need them to do or at the Martin Center. But as far as here at the school,
You mean at Jackson?
I'm sorry,
Yes.
That's okay.
for Jackson's. For the graduation ceremony, they would simply be at the concession area working those 2 bathrooms. There's a male and female restroom there. So
When you say working the bathrooms, what do you mean?
standing outside the door, as soon as somebody comes out of there, then we're going to go in and we're going to sanitize it.
So after everybody uses the bathroom every time, sanitizing
We
it?
need to. So my thought is that we would create a number system for the doors, for instance, in the restroom, and this one has been cleaned or this one hasn't been cleaned, that type of thing. So
Is that coming from just some sort of state guidance, Ian, or is that a comfort level?
it's a comfort level for me as saying that this is a facility that's available to you. I want to make sure that it's clean for you.
Okay.
That hasn't been something in the past, and I would like for us to put a better foot forward.
I think it's great. I just want to be certain that we know. Okay.
I think the main thing in talking with the health department is things like doors that have to be. We don't have an indoor graduation, but like our nursing program, they're gonna have a indoor graduation, and so one consideration is to make sure that you have somebody that's either cleaning that door or they have that door propped.
Right.
So that way you don't have people using the same thing over and over again. Well, it's my same thought process with the bathroom, is if for some reason that door gets closed, now we're grabbing the handle every time we're going in or going out. It's not so much about going to down the seat as it is making sure that it's safe to get in there. Of course, I would want them to make sure that we're cleaning up any paper materials, or if we have an issue with plumbing or something like that, they can take care of it.
I do have a question. So the senior send-off, do you guys plan on taking temperature since everybody's going to be in a close, like they're all coming inside and going to be close together?
I thought a lot about that. I thought about that for our graduation events as well. According to the conversations I've had with the health department, that would really, I don't want to say that they say don't do it, but I don't know that the benefit would be there for us. One, we're electing for them to give us that right now. For students, that would be something different. If they want to come into that social event, then we can do that. But as far as coming outside and seeing an event, I don't think that that's necessary. Obviously, if you're feeling ill or have a temperature, we do not want you to attend the event, nor do you have to. There's no reason you have to be there. That's something that I would definitely consider for our senior send-off, for all staff and all students that are going to come into the gymnasium to.
And I understand
make sure
being
they're
outside.
okay.
I was just thinking about everybody in the closed area and just taking precautions.
I thought about doing it in other places too, like outdoors, but the more I looked at it, there was too many other factors that would possibly either one, interfere with that or keep it from running as like we need it to.
Right.
We really need focus and attention when we've been gone for a while and now we're coming back and we're saying this is what we're going to do. We want to make sure that the ceremony is appropriate.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions? Sorry.
I want to make sure we ask Brian. Brian, do you have any questions? I just want to make sure. You might have to give us a hand signal. I don't know if Dr. Lorenz has the computer on mute and he has.
No, I muted myself to stop the feedback. Sometimes I can't hear well, but I'm following all this. Thank you, Ian.
Yeah, thank you. I think the last thing I would have is that at our prom event, we will have the three high school administrators will be there, 2 district SROs, and as well as there'll be several teachers. I can't say that there's going to be 10, but I know that right now that there's at least 5 that have said they really want to come, and I would anticipate more people wanting to be a part of that if they feel safe to do so. The last thing for graduation is we're going to meet at 4:30. Families and friends are encouraged to sit together in the stands, but we are not going to police social distancing in the stands, nor are we going to assign us seats. And that was a direct recommendation consideration for me. And the reason for that is families are of all different sizes, all different shapes, and made up of all different types. And so it may be 10 in one family and there may be 2 in another. And so what we want to say is instead of limiting them to 4 seats or something like that, we want them to sit with their family and be responsible in your social distancing from that other family. I would encourage families to spread out on our athletic campus. If they don't feel comfortable going into the stands, bring a lawn chair and sit along the fence, maybe on the opposite side, whatever. But we have many acres. And so if you really want a chair front and center, then I would get there early and claim your spot. The last thing is we will provide rides to the stadium for anyone who requests one at the ticket booth. We do have some people who have difficulty getting around that far, and so we'll have some vehicles available. And of course, we're going to do our best to sanitize those as well, kind of like the golf course is doing right now. So spraying them down and rubbing them down after each person gets in and out of them. And last would be graduation rain date. I didn't include this in my initial information, but the more I talked with people and worked through it, I wanted to make sure I had a backup plan to the backup plan. And so we don't want to wait till August 1st if for some reason we had thunderstorms. What I would like to do is propose that we move to a 6 p.m. on June 28th, the very next day. If we have a rain out on Saturday night, then we do it at 6 p.m. on Sunday night, the 28th of June. Students still showing up at 4:30 for senior send-off and all that stuff. And I know people have graduation plans on Sunday, and I've been invited to some of them. And bless their hearts, I want them to have their party when it's designed, but I got to think about the whole picture and the whole group, and the next best option while those families are in town is to go ahead and have it on Sunday.
Yeah, great idea.
Yep.
So That's all I have, unless you guys have questions for me. Specifics and this information that I've shared with you and any feedback I get from you, I would like to get it out to the public by 3 o'clock tomorrow at the latest. I would prefer to.
The senior
news
parents are
release.
chomping. They're ready. They're trying to decide, the ones that haven't pushed forward are trying to decide how many people can I bring? When are we going to do this? There's been lots and lots and lots of discussion, more discussion than anybody wants about Project Grad, how that event's going to happen. And I think that I think as of Wednesday night, they're going to kind of lay that in a stone and chip it in there and make sure that it stays. But there won't be an event per se. I mean, right now there's really not any place to have it. Nobody will let us have it anywhere. But Ian, are you comfortable if the senior class wants and that organization wants to incorporate that in your event? What are your thoughts about that?
This is the Senior 2020's event, and it always will be the seniors' event. And so I think that being able to pull these students together, there's not very many opportunities that you're going to have the class of 2020 in one spot at one time, at least the majority of them, ever again.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy to do whatever we need to do to make this right for them. And I think one of them is that extraordinary event that took place when I was in school, which was Project Graduation. It was a good experience for kids. It was a safe place to be, and I got a set of luggage there that I still use it every day. And so I want to provide that for kids.
Yeah.
And I've been approached about that, and I'm 100% in support of it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we're going to have a bingo event out here on the football field for graduation, but we will have some things that are different than a traditional event because of the situations that
Would that be in our facility?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it'll just be, I think you're planning on it
It'll
during.
be like a drawing that happens
Yeah.
during the event for a couple of big prizes, but all students are going to benefit from the fundraising that took place for the senior class.
Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for personally, at this point, I don't care. There's been a lot of work going into that, and I'm done. But I think the kids getting an opportunity to all benefit from that still, it'll be a financial benefit for all of them at this point, so that's great. Yeah, I appreciate you letting them do that during your ceremony. That's a big deal to some of those parents and kiddos.
Now, Mr. Burtz, you had talked about how you want to kind of settle this by 3 o'clock tomorrow. How are you going to communicate it to the public?
What I have communicated already through the modes or mediums that I know, KMMO and the Democrat News, as well as our school website and student emails and parent emails. Parent emails, that's why they're so critical, and we figured this out through this period, is we need to do a better job of retaining and organizing current parent information, and that's a partnership. That takes both of us. But we really need to streamline that so we can get information out as quickly as possible. I know that that's happening. It's getting better all the time, but that's one way that we will communicate it. Another way will be through our school website, obviously, and then the media that we have in our community. What I would like to do as well is to get it on any Facebook pages, or we'll have people put them out on Instagram. Drew Ayers is one of our student council members. He does a phenomenal job of pushing out information, as well as many of our other students. And so I will encourage our students to promote them.
There's a senior parent group meeting, so we'll make sure that gets on there late tomorrow afternoon so that those questions can slow down. Okay. Ian, thank you. I know this has been tough. This has been a long process for sure. So kudos to you to make it happen. I mean, a lot of schools haven't, and our kids deserve it.
We got a lot of great people in Marshall, and they've everyone has contributed to it. I wish I could take the credit for it, but that's not the case.
Well, but leadership is key. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Burtz. Next, we'll hear from Director of Data Analysis and Dissemination, Jim Pepper.
Last month, I kind of did history and comparison of revenue. This month, I've got concentrating on expenditures. History, and for the board members that are new, usually this is just kind of a summary of the report, and you'll receive a written report at the end of the meeting. So a history of different categories of expenditures for our district, and then a comparison of power expenditures with peer districts. And I used the same 10 peer districts that I used last month when I compared revenues. Now, first of all, 70.8%. That's 2018, 2019. The final page hasn't been written yet for 1920, but that's exactly how much it was. The percent of our total expenditures for compensation. That includes everything related to the compensation of the salary, all the way to payout for sick leave for people who retire or leave the district, and retirement, Medicare, Social Security, everything.
Stipends, are stipends included in that as well?
Absolutely, every single thing you can possibly think of, yeah. I delineated it in the written report, but yes, absolutely. Okay, so part of the report, and I'm not going to put all the different categories of employees up here tonight, but you can look at the workforce history for Marshall. This is just one example. Maintenance and custodians, these numbers are a little more fluid than, say, the number of teachers. And this is the number that we had in August of each year. That's not necessarily how many we had in January or later in the year, but this is how many we had in August of that year. It's broken down by category and building in the written report, but this is just kind of an overview of the history of maintenance and custodian employees. I wanted to highlight paraprofessionals up here tonight. Because number one, I didn't ask you, and number two, just kind of the history is a little interesting. Different districts approach hiring paraprofessionals differently. This is Marshall's workforce history. You notice we reached a high point there in 06, 07. Paras used to be able to do some things that they now have to have a certified teacher. Like they used to be able to sit in the detention center and such, and now they require a teacher to be in there. Also, some of that has been eliminated by technology. We used to have a para like in the computer lab and such, and computer labs aren't necessarily used as much anymore as we go closer to one-to-one technology. But that's a history of Marshall's workforce as far as paraprofessionals. Now, I wanted to show here, this is the number of paraprofessionals that were employed by these peer districts in the year 2018, 2019. But of course, you'd expect Sedalia being the biggest district on the list to have the most. So what I did here was divide the number of students by the number of paraprofessionals. So a lower number here means a district has more paraprofessionals. Okay, so like for instance, Kirksville has the most paraprofessionals per student. Another way to say that, they have the least number of students per paraprofessional, which is the number that you see up there. So we're really typical. Our number is the median. So if you're asking, okay, do we employ too few, too many paraprofessionals? The answer is pretty much right in the middle. Odessa is the only one that really doesn't employ very many paraprofessionals in this list. Building leaders, this is a history. They call them principals, assistant principals, directors, and so on and so forth, but that's just kind of a history. The entire narrative is laid out in the report of how we, how we are where we are today and such, and what happened each year when the numbers changed. Let's see, number of teachers, it's been remarkably consistent. Now let me clarify exactly what I included teacher-wise. If you're a teacher, you're on this list. If you're a counselor, if you're a librarian, there really wasn't anybody else included on this list. There are other people who work with, kids, diagnosticians, things like that, but only teachers, librarians, and counselors are on this list. And you expect it, for enrollment greatly increased or greatly decreased, that this number would change. I have a whole section on enrollment in the written report. This is a little bit, this is just a very small snapshot. Since you guys, going forward, are going to be dealing with a K-1 building and a 2 through 4 building. This chart was actually in the written report, so when you're staffing a 2 through 4 building, this has been remarkably consistent over the last 4 years. This is the sum of the number of students in those 3 grade levels. And then this is the K-1 enrollments. You're going to have a K-1 building. Now this has been growing, okay, at least over the past 3 years. I don't have the final figures for this year, but the 398, that's the preliminary enrollment. That's the sum of the kindergartners and the first graders. So, we've got pretty big class sizes already. I mean, if you divide 398 by 16 staff members, you're almost already at 25 students per classroom. So, that may be something that needs to increase in the future if our enrollment trend keeps that way. It's been all over the place as far as like how many kids are in a kindergarten class. We've gone from And I'm trying to flip this. Oh, I'm on the wrong screen, sorry. Okay, here we go. This is the student-to-teacher ratio. Here's what I did. I took the number of teachers that was on my list, divided by the number of students. It's been pretty consistent. This is, I mean, it's higher, it was higher this year, but I mean, not by much, not, like 3 100s. But this is, you take just the teachers on the list, or sorry, you take just the students that were enrolled, divided by the number of teachers that I have on the list.
Go back up one.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
No, I'm just trying to.
I think you can arrow back.
The arrow or the back.
There, right.
So you're saying that our ratio is 12.66 per teacher, yet our class sizes are running 25 and 30? There's something wrong with that number, Mr. Pepper.
Right, okay, so not every teacher is a classroom teacher. So
then why did you not do the classroom teachers with this ratio?
That's a great question. I can provide that for you.
That's what I would like to see.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm just looking at numbers, and they don't mean anything to me. I've got 35 kids in the class, and you're saying we're averaging 20. I've got the 35.
Right. Well, I mean, I showed you what, just for one class, kindergarten, I mean, I'm happy, it's easy to do for elementary, you take divided by 8, because every single level has 8 classroom teachers. Yeah, good.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, okay, so this is, I worked with Craig a little bit to see how much we were spending on transportation. Last month, I don't think I showed it in the presentation, it was in the report though, about the total amount that Marshall spends on transportation. These are the activity miles. Okay, this is sports trips. This is the cost of sports trips, field trips, and summer school. Okay, summer school miles are not eligible. So Craig said there's 2 reasons why these have decreased, is the expenditures have decreased. Number one, you've got 85 passenger buses now, which you can send 2 buses to Kirksville instead of 3 if you're taking the football team. You can take fewer buses, if you're taking the 4th graders down to the state capitol or something, you can fit more kids on those buses. And then the second thing is that we didn't provide transportation for summer school. Okay, so none of those mileage for the past couple of years. Like I said, this chart actually was in last month's report, but I didn't show it to me and I wanted to show it. This is you take all the transportation expenditures for the district, divided by the ADA of the students. And Marshall does really well. Yeah. The only district that spent fewer dollars in transportation per student was Sedalia. If you look at that, we're well behind, Odessa and Fulton and stuff. So they do a good job with what they have there. I think. Let's see, okay, and employee health insurance, the big expenditure, spent around $2 million a year. That latest figure there was from 18-19. In the written report, I've kind of shown what's going to happen for next year. It's been a steady trend upward. Now, there was a time when we changed providers and we, got to spend a lot less for a while, but of course it's come back up now. How does that compare? Obviously, a larger district is going to spend more on health insurance, so I took the total health insurance expenditures divided by the ADA, and we're about in the middle. Okay, so Fulton spends a lot more for their district size than we do. I know employee insurance goes up every single year. It seems like it seems exorbitant and everything, but we're not spending much more than other districts as far as that goes. And I think that's the end. I'd be glad to answer any questions. I will share the written report with everyone here in a couple of minutes.
When we're looking at those expenditures for health insurance, this is just because I don't know, when was the last time that was negotiated? So when we're looking at those trend, the other districts that are going up, they very likely could be on a different negotiation schedule than Marshall is. How often are those?
Mr. Patrick actually is the head of the insurance.
So we've been with our current consortium for about 10 years now. And the consortium, the brokers that organize that consortium, negotiate with the different, United Healthcare, Blue Cross, all the different, they put out the bid either once every 2 or 3 years. I'm not certain on that.
Okay.
And they bring back the best bid. Now, like for instance, this year, they came back with a renewal rate that was going to be $642 a month per employee. We said, we can't, that was going to be from $564 to $642. They went back and actually got United Healthcare to write a new plan that was going to be $585. Now, we had to, the deductible doubled and such, but we were able to, afford. I mean, it was affordable. Went to $585 instead of up to $642. So that's kind of where we are. Now, just to tell you, and it's in the written report, we're not in a position to get competitive bids as a standalone district. Our loss ratios are not great here. So our insurance would be higher for sure if we went with it and tried to get bids as a standalone district rather than being with the consortium that we are in.
Okay, and those consortiums, the consortium is that, and truly I'm asking because I really seriously don't know. The consortium, is that someone that works solely with school districts? Or would that be an opportunity for us to seek, for instance, I know that there are, in our healthcare agencies, as a matter of fact, in Marshall and other surrounding areas, many people have teamed up and have an insurance organization that's actually bidding as a huge buy group. And so the rates are coming back lower for businesses, organizations, because they're a part of this group. It's not any money, it's just, it's not, there's not any financial commitment for the organization. It's just being a part of that group. So I'm just curious if that
How many
stands as a...
schools are in that consortium?
There's about 15.
Okay.
There are 4,200 insured people
in that group. Okay, good to know.
317 of those.
Good to know. Thank you.
And actually because this is the way it should be, but the teachers really do the Jim and Mindy and whomever. They're the ones that do the negotiation. They're the ones that do the business with the insurance, and I just say, God bless you for doing that.
Yeah, for sure. That's a big job.
But if we've got opportunities to...
Yeah, I'll maybe get with you after that. I'd like to hear some more about that and learn some more.
Absolutely.
See if there are a lot more, might be some more options, I'm not sure.
Now, Mr. Pepper, you said something that I didn't understand. You said our loss ratios are not great. What do you mean?
So, essentially our district has higher claims than the average of the consortium, and it's been that way pretty much since we've been in the consortium. We've had more claims here.
Yeah.
And that's,
I think that way, when I was teaching too, our older people tended, we always had older teachers.
Sure.
So they would have more claims.
Yeah, it's good to have experienced people. One thing that I would wonder about, well, this is kind of a rhetorical question to you, Mr. Pepper, but do these numbers tell us anything about the quality of the services that we're getting for the price that we pay? Let me put that in a different frame. For example, we might pay more than, I don't remember, Mexico for health insurance, but are our staff healthier, happier? Are they more productive? Are they more likely to stay here? And I think you see where I'm going with this.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. And it's an apples to apples comparison is probably possible there as far as like the actual benefits. I mean, I know, so like, for instance, Moberly was one of the peer districts is in the same consortium we are. Boonville, for example, and they're in a different consortium. They're in like the biggest consortium. They ended up having to pay like a huge one-time charge this past year. I don't know. I mean, not everybody's happy with the insurance. Not everybody's happy with the deductible going up and such. But I think we all just have to realize health insurance is going to keep increasing, just from trend, whether it's locally, nationally. We have a healthcare problem.
What percentage did your deductible go up?
The deductible doubled.
Doubled?
Yeah.
Yikes.
But I think the way we kind of sold it, not everybody was on board. I think it's rare that somebody meets the deductible and doesn't just blow through their out-of-pocket max. So, I mean, when I'm shopping for health insurance, the deductible is not necessarily the big thing, the main thing that I look at. You look at the services that you get, what the drugs are going to cost. Out-of-pocket max is always foremost in my mind.
Sure.
it's meant to prevent catastrophic.
Yeah, correct. I'm just looking at it from a perspective of teachers not feeling well, needing to go to the doctor, hesitate to go to the doctor because they're not hitting the deductible, and so they're coming to school ill and not, I mean, let's face it, if you don't feel well and you try to live through the cold, teachers already do that. They're already committed to their classrooms anyway. And so if they're, I trust, believe me, I trust that you guys are doing a wonderful job with that. I'm just a huge fan of you guys having great benefits, and if we can work together to make sure that we're definitely seeking every option, then I think that's great. For my own people, I hate to raise a deductible and then hesitate to go to the doctor. It's impossible usually to get all of the ducks in a row and have great prices for medication and great co-pays for doctor visits, and then deductibles still being low. I get it, but it's a scary thing. Insurance is a scary thing, no doubt. So.
Well, I had a similar thought when it came to transportation, right? And again, this is more of a philosophical conversation on some level, because I don't expect you to answer for all of the transportation issues, but I'm also kind of wondering about how we can think about, in terms of data, how we can think about issues like, okay, well, maybe we are right smack dab in the middle of, where did I write down my transportation notes? Oh no, can't find them. That we're actually doing pretty okay with transportation expenditures. Oh, we're on the low side.
Yeah.
That's right, we're on the low side for that. But then my question would be, are we missing opportunities? Are we shortchanging, do we need more staff there? Are we underserving some students? Are we prepared for, say, medical emergencies when it comes to transportation? And those are just things that, like I said, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I just wonder about, is there even a way for us to, how could we go about even thinking about that?
Where less and why.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, great questions.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I know.
That was the same question I had, less and why.
Yes, yeah, and so, yeah, if we're spending so much less, what's the why there? So it sounds like something we might, as a board, want to consider taking up sometime. So hearing more about what we're getting for what we're spending, even when we're saving money in that regard. Any other questions then for data analysis and dissemination? It sounds like we're going to have a follow-up from you in terms of Harry's question about the teacher classroom numbers.
Well, let me, I'll be able to clarify, because exactly what you want.
We mentioned it once before. I'm interested in the number of, I'm interested in classroom teacher ratio.
Yeah, what's actually going on in the classroom.
Teaching.
As opposed to a classroom designation.
All the administrators and the counselors and everybody else and all the support people in there and make our numbers look good. And then I'm stuck in a classroom with 30 kids.
Yeah.
Well,
especially first graders.
Yeah. I will tell you this, only people that weren't, I mean, there are teachers, music teachers, special teachers and stuff like that, but there were no, process coordinators.
I don't see how you can get that number.
Like that.
I just don't see how you can get that number.
It sounds like,
okay, I'll tell you a little bit, is there's a lot of special education teachers, that maybe they don't even have their own classroom, they, push in with such, there's, help me out.
Well, they all come out of the same, but they all come out of the same teacher fund.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, there's a lot of there are teachers that don't necessarily have their own class. I think what you'd be most interested in is like at the elementary level, where, first through fourth grade, and then maybe homerooms at the middle school, and maybe like the English and math classes or something at the high school, student-teacher ratios.
Mr. Carroll, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Patrick, but you've included, in the elementary, there's a music arts teacher, and so that's making those numbers go down because they don't have an assigned classroom all day. So you want to know, core teachers
I just
and
think
content numbers.
I just think that number is just not valid for the number of, when I talk to teachers and they're still running 25, 30 in their classroom, and we're flashing a number up here.
11.
Says 12.6.
Yeah.
I can't find that number.
Harry, my point.
You're better at math than I am.
Yeah, probably not, but I will tell you this, the point, and when you read the report, the point of that slide that shows like longitudinal data is simply to compare that number from one year to the next.
Okay.
It is completely unfair for me to stand up there and say that our student-teacher ratio in classrooms is actually, because it's not.
What's your average class size? Come on, you get that right off the top of your head. You always could.
18.
18. I see, it's not
That's
bad.
me. But, you know, there are teachers that.
And you're teaching advanced classes primarily, aren't you?
Yeah.
All right.
Your elementary classes have between 23 and 25.
Yeah.
Which is going to say.
Yeah.
So 1 to 25.
Donations is 20.
Yikes.
23 to 25,
Yeah.
yes.
So we, as a district, for example, it would not necessarily be to our shame to have higher expenditures and have fewer students in the classroom, right, to be able to load that.
Aaron, I mean, you take 398 divided by 16, you get 24.9 was the average class.
I'm sorry.
You're right. No, that's an important question to ask. And we do have to be mindful about how we're thinking about the data that comes to us, because Jim brings us useful information, but it's what we do with it then that matters. So we may want to be thinking about following up about some of those
Anything we
issues.
can do to reduce class size, I think we increase education, increase test scores, increase communication with the staff.
Yeah, that's the second.
Gotta have space.
Space.
We gotta have the space to do that, and that's complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any further questions? Thank you, Mr. Paprick. Next up, we have Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Diane Gillespie.
Is that a different
We don't
agenda?
have it, the same agenda.
We don't have that agenda.
We don't have this agenda.
No, we don't have it.
I read this.
On the chair, updated. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Linda.
Yeah, we just learning. Well, I think an agenda that doesn't change would be a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I think I'm going to stop reading here any moment.
Sorry, guys. Okay, but now I'm not at the beginning. There we go, okay, sorry. I only work with one screen normally. Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure and welcome to our new board members. It's a pleasure to see you all here, and I'm looking forward to working with each of you. And I, as always, will continue to work with those who are now seasoned and have been here for a while. I am not here with my normal curriculum and instruction report. I am here with some survey results in regards to reentry to school for our COVID-19 and for the school year of 2021. I did send out, I apologize that the information came to me from me so late yesterday in regards to the community survey, but I wanted to make sure you had the most up-to-date responses. In fact, when our board report normally would have been due to Linda, we only had about 725 responses, and as of yesterday, when I did my report for you all, we were at 855. Before I came this evening, I checked, and I think we're even at 868 today, so somewhere around there. So we are still getting community. I want you guys to have the most up-to-date response we possibly could for the survey results. I will also let you know I've added some other slides. I will email those out to you as soon as possible. I met with our COVID task force chair people this morning, and they really wanted the needs survey that we did with our staff members right after school was out, so that you could see where teachers were standing. So I have included that. I didn't want to bombard you with that. When I got that done at 3 o'clock today, I did not want to give it to you then, but I will share it with you. And the comment pages with all surveys is about 75 pages. I am not sharing that tonight. You are just seeing numbers tonight. I will let you read through the 75 pages of comments. You have 35 of them. There's about another, I guess, 40 pages coming to you all. And that all has to do with spacing. It's really what it is.
34.
Yeah, 34, so yeah.
No, I think it's important that we get to see those. I mean,
Yes.
people are talking to us, we need to see those.
And I added the other pages from these other two surveys that I added tonight. I just didn't want to give it to you at 4 o'clock and you trying to process this before that.
Oh, no, please bombard us. We would like that information.
I will send it to you as soon as we are done in the meeting. Right. Anyway, so these are our community survey results. We have been posting it throughout our website on the live feed. We've been putting it out on our Facebook and any other social media we have out. We have some of our local banks that are putting it on their scrolling screens. Our Career Center also has go to Marshall Public Schools to fill out the survey. We do have Spanish responses. I looked today, we only had 5. and I have to sit down with the English one to compare it, so you do not have Spanish responses yet, because I'm not fluent, I'm sorry. So anyway, here we go. I am going to go through this rather quickly, because you have had a chance to see it, but please stop me on any that you want to have a little bit more information on. These were just kind of gathering who we were getting the poll from. We have about 73% of our poll was parents and guardians, and about 20% was community members. We really felt it was important, even if you were a community member and do not have a student in our school district, to still hear from you, because actually the school is the hub of, the district is the hub of our community. And that just, our next slide, or our next piece of data breaks down where their students were in school, and they were able to click more than just one grade level. It's an overwhelming response. Obviously, our families would like to have school start in the fall as normal as possible, with about 74% of them saying that, and at-home learning is at about 12.9%. During the last school closure, how did you receive the information? There were some other ones added, but it was only like low 1-2%, so I didn't put all of them in there. These were our top hitters of how they were finding out the information. Owl Alert seems to be the most popular. Which is your preferred method? Owl Alert is still winning, but that is your preferred method of communication. I would like, and I'm sorry, I should have said this at the beginning, this was a survey created by our teachers that are serving on the task force. The only thing I did was read it and make sure there weren't hopefully any typos, and said it's okay to go out. Dr. Mayer did also put her eyes on it, was agreeable with all the questions that went out. So this was a survey created by our staff and that's on the task force. We wanted to know when was the best time for them to receive messages, our parents and guardians, and they're all agreeing that the morning is the best, but we are considering that if it needs to go out 3 times a day, it's just a matter of clicking a button. This was just kind of wanting to know how our parents and community might like to hear about things. Other options that were brought to us that when we were doing our research with the task force was some districts use that automated phone call. I know when my daughter was in school, I knew the 1-888 number that came through at 4 a.m. and we didn't have school and I didn't answer it. So I don't know how great that is, but 57 said no. And then would you like to have marquee signs out in front of the buildings with announcements? 60% said yes, that might be helpful. If you read in the comments, a lot of people said it would be helpful, but they would rather see that money go towards things that would improve student academics. But is that something we might look down the road for getting announcements out in front of families? Yes. But right now they're saying they would like to see that money go towards whatever it is to increase student achievement in our reentry for COVID. So this kind of goes into our technology piece. What kind of devices do you have for your students at home? We had about almost 50% say they have a computer or a laptop. A tablet is at about 10.5. 16.1 says a phone. What we have heard is that the phones and tablets are not always compatible with what we are asking students perhaps to be doing remotely for learning, so that was a concern. And then about the reliable access to internet, I know that is a concern with our, number one, can they afford Wi-Fi, and or is that the fiber optics not strong enough? I did go through and hopefully did the math appropriately, that the 624 that we had at the time, 47% of them do have internet. 7.6 of our students, families do not have internet. And we are very aware that obviously this survey was done online, so they most likely had to have internet to do the survey. So we know that we're going to have the families that do have it, although unless they filled it out at work or something, they might have internet at work that they could go in and fill out the survey. So we are aware that that's kind of a skewed question there. We do not have a lending device program right now. It's kind of equal about how we would like to see a lending program go out if we were to have to go back into remote learning for all students. It's kind of equal there. And then also we asked if they would be willing, if we were to open up a computer lab setting with a schedule perhaps, my students coming from 10 to 11 a.m., I could bring them in. Would they be willing to bring them in for a computer lab? Some parents said, well, if we can have them in the computer lab, why can't we have them in school? That was a pretty popular comment.
I have a question. We don't have a lending program, but we do at some parts of our district have a lending program, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So this information right here is not accurate then?
Well, it's that, we were looking at it as the whole district. Marshall, we do not have a district-wide MPS lending system.
So how far away from that are we? How many buildings don't have one? Are we talking just elementary? Or do we have that at Beaker and the high school, or what do we have?
So in another survey that I'm going to show you based on the teacher, we had a majority of our students were not offered a device. Elementary and middle and high, I think, were. High school, I know, was. Middle was if they could offer, if they did. Elementary was not offered a device.
How many devices do you have in your building, Ian?
You're around five something.
There's closer to 500 now, but there'll be even more than that at the beginning of our next school year. We were the only, the secondary, or high school was the only one that had computers out during COVID. But we offered them to any family that asked. That would include anybody that requested one that for academic purposes. I think the question up there is about the lending program as far as accountability measures for this is our device. You take it with care as long as it returns in working order and things along those lines. We did not have that this year. It was simply recording the device number, the student number, and dates of turning in and checking out, basically. We didn't have any problem getting them back. Our families did a fantastic.
People were ready to be done with that.
And a lot
Clearly by
of
these
districts will
results.
say, for $50 you can borrow I bought 3 plug-in cords for my daughter's Chromebook when she was in high school because she was plugging in her computer and walking away and just taking the computer, so I was constantly buying. So a lot of times it's to replace a cord that might be broken or something like that. So it's more of an insurance kind of thing. Okay. And then, we talked about going to a computer lab. I could not get this to pull correctly, so each bar is what those options are. How can we support you as a parent? This is kind of going to the parent support, obviously, it's our parent support forum to make sure they feel better. A lot of them said orientation or training on how to access Google Classroom. I think that was a real hiccup because we might be using it in our buildings, but our families are not seeing it at home. And then 235, we're looking for professional development for parents, emotional support, and then the bottom bar is it's not applicable because they were a community member. So I'm sorry, that's kind of a messed up. I couldn't figure out how to fix it. If we attended a training camp, or if we offered a training camp before school, would you be interested? That's kind of broken down that it looks like a lot said no, but we have quite a few who said yes if you add all those numbers together. So that is something that the task force is considering, is making sure that we train parents in what they need to hear. I shouldn't say the word train. You train dogs and you develop people. These are the reasons that they were not participating in the 1920 COVID pandemic school time. I call it COVID school. We had 373 say that they did, but the big hitter was technology and not enough direction from teachers and scheduling. It's kind of all equal in there, honestly. And then we did have 97 say it was personal choice. So teachers had a lot to say about that piece. But if we come back to school in the fall, would your student return? We have 75% saying yes. We also asked about underlying health conditions that might keep them from returning, and about 70% said no, they don't have any health conditions for their students or for their family. This is the family one. We're at about 60% saying no, that there is not anything underlying. This was mainly about our EL and our special services, that a majority of the people taking the survey did not have students receiving that, but 20% said that they not applicable. I'm a community member, so those other smaller numbers kind of are all over the place, but they were completed, not completed, very few assignments completed, so.
I have a question about this one also. And Grace, this might fall to you a little bit also. With these,
That's why she's here.
with these special services kiddos and families, I'm concerned that maybe those people are not clearly they're not responding to us online. Is there, I don't know how many kids we're talking about, but is there an opportunity for us to touch those families even by phone or to run these questions so that we can get a feel? I mean, I don't want to stereotype anyone, but we've got to get these kids in the classroom or get them attention. And if we don't know what their parents feel like they're risking, then I feel like this whole piece is missing. Because I don't know what they feel. As a parent of a kid that doesn't receive special services, I have no idea what they feel. And if they're not comfortable getting online and answering those questions, then do you have a plan to reach them?
We do. So during closure, our case managers were responsible for making contact with the parent. It could be email, it could be text, or it could be a phone call. So they were making contact with all of those families. And then I have already reviewed all this data and all the feedback in the comments. And so I'm going to meet with my process coordinating team and get a plan of when we get back to school, these kiddos that are on your case management list. And our case managers have 8 to 10 kids. Some have a few less, some have a few more. That's what we're running average. That will be part of their IEP. We have a new form that we have to include. So what worked well for you? What do we need to do differently in the future? Kind of like Ian talked about, we've learned so much from what we tried to do this year, kind of in a panic. We're going to be much better next year, and we're going to write those things into their plan so it will follow the students. So if this happens 2 years down the road, we already know this is what worked really well for you. This is what your parents would like to see instantaneously. When we kind of need to pivot and go to that, we can.
So when you're talking about adding these to the IEP, are you talking about doing that immediately? Or are you talking about doing that when their IEP comes around?
No, it's effective.
It's going to be immediate. That's great.
We're going to all the IEPs in the fall.
And then how many kids are we talking about?
In special ed, I believe we're about 370 right now.
Okay, thank you.
Pre-K-12.
Say that again.
Pre-K-12.
Pre-K-12, okay.
CSE students.
Okay, thank you.
And then we had how can special education, so NEL support your children if we return to distant learning? Again, a large number doesn't fall in the special service category, and so those other numbers kind of mush together to make up the other part for meeting them individually, being at school, et cetera, et cetera. Our biggest concern about returning in the fall from our parents was the sanitation piece and making sure that our buildings, handles were wiped down, bathrooms were wiped down. You know, what does that look like to make sure that we're sanitizing our buildings to the best of our ability? And what coping strategies would you be interested to help support you and your students for social and emotion and just positive message designation or design for that? So I think that top one, they're both very important, but I think that top one is something that the task force has taken in a lot of consideration as they've been doing plans, is what is it that our parents are saying that they need to see and hear prior to going back to school in the fall.
Can you go back one?
Sure.
Are we, let me see, what's this 38.1%? There's a bar line for 38.1%. See it, the second one? What's?
Oh, you know what, I'm sorry, Dr. Martin, that's, you know that one I had that kind of funky little
Yeah.
cut and paste in there? I didn't notice that I was missing a label on that. I can fix it, and I'll probably just send that one out to you all individually.
Diane, there's actually 2 on there.
There's
the 4th line also.
Okay, I do apologize.
Okay.
After you cut and paste so much and are looking at it,
Actually, there's.
And that is why that one was funky, is because that's exactly what it looked like, and I missed it on the slide. I do apologize.
Yeah,
you're going to send us the raw results, aren't you, anyway?
I can send you I think I can share with you the actual form that it was out on, and you can see responses. I might need to instill some of my Google lovers to help me make sure
Yeah, sure.
I'm doing it that right.
That'd be an easy way around it.
Yeah, so, and actually I do have the questions. I could probably figure out the answers. I have the questions right here that would have the answers to. I could look it up, and I will for you guys. Let's see, this was kind of talking about when would it be good for feedback to come back to parents. Obviously, the overwhelming number is in the evening, and it's probably them thinking about if they're at work, the best time to talk to a parent or provide that feedback is in the evening. And that how confident are they? We're pretty by the thirds here, not confident somewhat, and confident in their ability to implement home learning at home. Home learning at home, or distant learning at home is what I meant to say. Distant learning times, when is the best time for them to do that? The most popular time is that 5 to 7. And as we think about planning forward, the task force has thought a lot about, we might not be able to hold school hours from 8 to 3 because we have parents who need to help their kids from 5 to 7. If we're in distant learning, not if we're in regular school. But if we have to go back into shelter in and go back to distant learning, then we might have to alter or shift some teacher schedules so that they can support those families in the evening. And then this is just a minute question. They're saying about 60 to 120 minutes for a workload of school assignments during the day. And then this was kind of talking about the fact that we only accept high school. The other buildings did do enrichment. They did enrichment in high school, but they were also still acquiring grades for, what are the credits, sorry, Mr. Burtz. But then how did they feel about, they liked them, but feel it was not enough during that time. So those were the community survey results. You have seen those and you also have the comments. The task force, I met with the chair people today. I think there's 14 or 15 of them on there. A great group of teachers, very passionate about making sure we re-enter school. They want all of our students back all the time, but we also know we have to take some precautions. But prior to that, another piece of data they wanted to collect was to see how our staff felt about instruction during the last 2 months of school. You do not have this, and I apologize. It was at their request that I added it today. So I will get this to you. But we had only about 80 teachers, and we have 199 certified. This went out to all staff, so it could have been the total 350 staff members that could have replied. But it was mainly teacher questions, and I believe that's why we didn't get as many classified staff members to answer. I provided most of my instruction by a mixture of both, meaning that it was online and packets was the big one, 51%. Class participation was less than 50%, 77% of our responses said that it was less than 50%. We did ask what their teaching position was while they were filling this out. My students were offered a device to assist them at home. 67% said no, they were not. 32% said yes. Did the platform that we chose to use for enrichment work for all students? 50-50. Now remember, these are teachers and our staff members answering, not family members. They might be a family member too, but did you as a teacher feel comfortable with Google Classroom? 55% said yes. We still have, almost 25% of our staff do not feel comfortable with Google Classroom, and the task force is taking that in consideration when we're looking at our professional development we offer teachers in the fall. Do you feel that remote learning environment can be supported by MPS as a whole? And 57 said no. Long-term remote learning. What areas do you feel you need support to provide students? Google Classroom training was the big one. We had some teachers who did their computer in their classroom was a desktop, so they did not have a laptop to be able to take home with them, so the access to a school device, many were using their personal, and then access to internet. Again, it might not be that it just might be where they live, that the infrastructure is not there. Did you have reliable internet? Most of our teachers did, our staff did have reliable internet access. Did you have access to a device? Yes, the district one was at about 57 and 42% said no, they were using a personal device. If you answered yes to the above question, what device did you have access to? Most of them were a laptop or a phone. Again, a phone is not always the best way to be doing any learning support for our students. So those were actually from our staff in regards to the last 2 months of school.
And were there comments with those questions?
Yes,
okay,
they are.
because those would be illuminating.
Yes,
yeah.
That's how we went from 34 to 75 pages. And the next one will be about 75 pages with comments. With the 34 you've already received, plus the added ones I added today. So some good nighttime reading. Feel free, it's a good time. Anyway, so the next one we did is we have one of our task forces is social and emotional support for students and staff during this. We are quite aware that, being sheltered in for a long time with the same people may have had some emotional impact on our folks. So anyway, this is a short one, and this is also included along with your comments, also their questions. Do you feel that MPS has acknowledged the increased burden? 1 is not effective to 4 was very effective, so we were kind of in the middle, that they were kind of I don't want to say wishy-washy, but not sure where they fell about as a result. Did we acknowledge that as an entire district? Was the regular communication effective? Again, the 1 to 4. Writing informations regarding the changes were pretty high on we've got about 64% of those 100 responses at the 3 and 4. How concerned are you regarding your health and safety when we return back to work? It's the 1 and 2, not at all kind of as heavy on that one. And then would you utilize resources to improve your social and emotional health? 72% said yes. And how prepared do you feel you are to support your students in social and emotional for transitioning to next year? It looks like most of that falls at the 3 and 4, that they feel pretty supported and that they could do it. And then also free consultation from our 2 community partners, Burrell and Katy Trail. They are very interested in that support. And that is the end. All of this is strictly none of my words. These are surveys with numbers for you all. So, and like I said, the comments will come out. I did not edit the comments, so if there's squiggly lines, that was because they misspelled a word. I was not going to edit that many pages. Are there any questions or thoughts or anything before I open that floor? I do want to give shout outs to these teachers that are on. We have over 50 staff members that are on the actual task force, and I think I have 14 COVID chairs I've been working with. At this time, this is all volunteer, and they have passionately researched and have at all times kept our students and our staff and our families at the forefront of any decision that they're making a recommendation for. They have put a lot of time into it. I've seen the passion in their faces and that they just want to do what's best for our kids. It's been a real joy. I work closer with the task force chairs than I do the actual task force because there are so many, and I've sat in probably at least 80% of their meetings for majority of the time. There was one week I was clicking from meeting to meeting to get to them all. But it's been a real pleasure, and they are very passionate about the recommendations that they would like to bring forward.
Ms. Gillespie, how many staff have we had participating in the task forces?
So we have about over 50 staff members that are actually participating in the task force. Again, volunteers, so I don't know if everyone's making every meeting. But I do know, and one thing I asked those members to do at our very first meeting was to make sure they're out talking to their colleagues. Obviously, you can't have a task force of 350 staff members, because then it's not really a task force anymore. But they are encouraged to go out, here's what we're thinking, and get feedback. And they still want to continue to do that with our teachers and staff members.
It looks like from your letter, Dr. Mayer, that we're going to be talking about reopening schools here in a little bit. Are we going to be touching more on the work of the task force? Because I think that's important for us to be hearing about. We'll be hearing about that during your talk.
She's going to bring that at the special meeting.
Special meeting.
29th.
There is a kind of a timeline that the task force is wanting to work through, and it was a little more crunched, thinking, not sure about what the July board meeting was going to look like, and we're still unsure of that. That's obviously your all's decision, but that they would really like to have a draft recommendation out in front of teachers. It's already been to administration. We're having another meeting tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow, to kind of pull the administrators' thoughts and feedback to it, because they're the ultimate decision makers, and the task force understands that. They still would really like to still get, once the recommendations from admin is in, to our teachers, because they want to hear the teachers, more teachers' voices than just the task force, and if you want to come, you can. And then they want to take those recommendations in, and also would like to then, that would be paper and hopefully face-to-face if possible, or Zoom or whatever, and then have kind of the final draft to you all at that June board meeting, with some time then for the community to give feedback, so that we could get more feedback than this, but hear what the plans look like, so that you at your July meeting might be able to say, here's how this is going to move forward. I was actually, I believe quite a few of us in the room were on a DESE reentry webinar today, and they said you have to be in a pivotal moment. You should have more than one plan, so that at any minute you can turn on a pivot and say, we need to go to this plan now because our numbers have increased, we've got to go to remote learning. Or is we start out one way, and then at any minute we could have to change to another direction. So that is what this task force has been working on, is 3 different plans.
Well, I can only speak for myself. I wouldn't speak for the rest of the board on this, but I guess I would open it up for a little bit of discussion. I think it's important for it sounds like what's going to happen is that there's still work going on with the task force. It's going to go to the administration. Administration's going to weigh in on it, have their thoughts and concerns. And it's going to go back to the teachers, or the task force participants, who will then reach out to other teachers, continue to refine it so that it can be presented potentially by the task force chairs
Yes.
at the 29th special meeting, so that we can make rapid progress
Yes.
toward having a plan out for public consumption in July.
Yes.
I do think it's important that teachers have ownership and that staff as well have ownership, that everybody is involved. That's where I speak for myself, and I would,
And so, the teachers want their voice heard on this. They were the ones that were on the front line of living from March
Yeah,
13th until
exactly.
the last day of school. They want a voice, they want to be heard, they are hoping that the recommendations that they come forward, they understand there's some things they don't understand in their world that might not be able to happen. And even with whatever the board would approve as the best recommendations in July, we have to understand that might still change. There's still a month and a half till school starts. But again, if we have a plan, it's easier to tweak a plan than to create a plan in the last minute. So that is really the task force goal, is that we have this plan A, this is what we would like it to look like, but if something else comes down the pipe that they're not aware of and none of us are aware of right now, then we can make that change when needed. And that's been the hardest part, is we spent a lot of time, Mr. Birch has been in some of those meetings where we're trying to answer questions that we don't even have the right questions that we're asking, or we don't have the right answers. It's like, it can be a vicious circle for us all, but they really have researched and read other plans and done the best that they can that's best for our students and staff and families and community. So, and again, so that, even whatever is approved in July, we have to understand that might change. I would also like to say that the task force is not recommending a start date for school. That is in the hands that are around this table. That is, if you say we start on August 24th, this is what it rolls out to look like, the best laid out plan. And if you say August 1st, then this is the best laid out plan to start then. So it is not a recommendation of when school starts by any means, just what it looks like when we do have students in.
Other questions?
One of the questions that I would have is looking at hours and the semester, and comparing other educational organizations and how they're displaying their semesters, shortening them up so that, when we get into the flu and cold season, that after that Thanksgiving date, is there thought that, lengthening our day so we get maximum hours in before that point? Is that an opportunity and a place of?
Yes, is the short answer to that. And then, of course, I talk to the administration, because we have so much that goes on after school.
Sure.
But all of those are absolute possibilities.
Okay. And it sounds like the teachers are.
Yeah, I think that's great to be able to hear from the teachers, and it sounds like the world is trying to get in and get out. I don't know what that looks like, but I think we need to be, okay.
More questions, comments?
I had not planned for it to be that long, but when I added those extra ones, thank you all. And once you get the reports, let me know if you have any questions. And I will probably send you to a task force chair, not me. I'm not the expert.
Yeah, I think that's good info.
Yeah, and do send the survey information as soon as possible.
Yes, I will do it before I leave the office.
Thank you. Next, we have the Assistant Superintendent report from Dr. Terry Loren.
So sorry I wasn't ignoring the conversation. I was firing emails to Brian, so he has digital copies of what you're getting ready to give here.
On that note, Dr. Lorenz, do you think we could have your updates going forward? Because we have them kind of like we have Dr. Mayer's, maybe on letterhead and sent to us ahead of time with the board packet. I think that would be useful, especially as we have new board members.
Well, and that's fine, I can get it out there early, but
That'd be great.
typically I
Thank
have stuff that comes right up. I mean, half of that report happened today because there's so much happened yesterday and today, so
Great.
if you
That's
want me
okay. You can
to
do
shut
it.
it off then a week in advance, I will do that. That's no problem.
Yeah,
That's no problem.
we would just like detailed information ahead of time. I mean, you can update it, of course, during your report, just kind of like with what we
Have an
had some
add-on.
updates.
How early does info have to be in, Linda, before you?
I usually have the Wednesday.
Wednesday before the board meeting, okay.
And we might want to talk about having it even a week ahead of time to have a board packet out.
Okay.
Something I've been chewing on for a long time, that we need more time to look over materials, but not something we need to make a decision about tonight. But since you brought it up, Dr. Lorenz, that you were just now sending Brian the paperwork, I thought maybe it was a good time.
Well, I try to push stuff to you that I know you're gonna have to make decisions on, if it's more
Sure.
updates about fixes and upgrades, I mean, as far as some physical stuff, I try to bring that to you. If I'm running into something where you're gonna have to make a decision about bids, or, I mean, I get that to you as fast as I can get that. So that's not something I would ever hold back. I want you to have that as.
Oh, I don't think we're saying you're holding back, but we would just like to have the written report.
Okay,
I think
I will
just
get you what I have
just
by
like
the week
everybody
before, and
else's.
okay,
Yeah, that'd be
that's what we'll
great.
do.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Okay.
Let's see, so many things going on. It's a busy, busy summer. We'll come back to the track bids, because there's an action item in that. The copier bids, print services bids are out right now. Hope to have those back in for you for the special meeting on the 29th. We will also, we're going to talk a minute here in a little bit about some of the mobile devices in this Secure Leap program that I'm showing you. I want to hear what your input is tonight, and that RFP is probably going to go out so that I can get some response to that if we move down that direction for the 29th meeting also, but I want to kind of get some feedback on that. We have camera, temp reader cameras out right now. And that's going to come back to you on the 29th as well. So those few things that are either bidding or have been bid or about to be put out for bid. So several things there.
I think I'm lost on this.
I'm lost,
Okay.
Dr. T, I'm sorry.
So let me slow down.
Before the first RFP that you were talking about,
Print services.
right, and then the second,
And I said there's no RFP yet, but there could be. This program that I'm just going to show you, that you're getting some paperwork on here in just a second.
Oh, so it's not on this list?
No, I just kind of got it
Got
pulled
it,
together.
okay,
That's that.
okay.
So that is about this Securely program. Some people use a program called BARC. There's a couple different programs out there. It is for,
Right here.
it's
Okay, thank you.
yeah, I'm sorry, it's down later in my thing. I was trying to,
move on schedule.
there's so many things firing at me. I'm trying to be as organized for you as I can be.
Well, let's see, working with MMU.
There we go,
okay.
So-
Terminate existing, no cost to us looking at
Okay.
solutions securely. Okay. Tech bullet point, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm just numbering the bullet points, 7, 8. So that's item number 6 we're looking at right now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm with it. I got it. Okay, I'm working on tech equipment. All right, I'm with it.
Was there questions about it, or?
No,
Do you want me to keep talking about it, or
Yes,
tell you about what it is?
or just keep going on your list. I just didn't know what,
Yeah.
I didn't understand the word securely, so I didn't know where we were.
Yes, so it was just, and I'll get to that in just a second, because I have a
Okay.
little documentation. I knew if I sent it to you, I'd make it even more confusing for you.
Okay.
So the bids, I'm just trying to give you a little bit of a rundown of the bid action that's going on right now. Okay? So the track was one thing you know about. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Print services will be coming to you. We've pushed that out to 4 or 5 different bidders.
That's the copier bidder.
The copier bidder, the copier.
Oh, okay.
That's copiers, print services.
Okay.
And so as I get information, or if I get any, the deadline for that, I'd have to look at my sheet. But just as soon as I get information back, at the deadline, I will push that to you as soon as possible. It may be what's the date of the?
29th?
29th is
Let
the
me see
special
what
meeting.
Let me see if I've got the answer for her about. I believe the 26th at noon is the close on the print. So I will, as soon as I get it, as soon as it closes, I will push everything that I can push to you digitally so you can start looking at that.
That would be
Because
excellent.
that one's a big one. The print, we only do that once every 5 years, thank
I was
goodness.
just gonna ask that.
But it's a big one. There's a lot involved in it. I had several meetings with Rico, met with Troy and Keeper and I, sat down and organized what the scope of work, what we were looking for from Rico. We got our volumes, we got the machines, and there was a big discussion that we had between having the print shop versus not having the print shop and just doing printers. There was a big, long discussion there. I think we're going to stay in the same scope that we currently have. We may reduce by an extra convenience printer or two, but that's still not a certain either. We bid it without that, so.
We rent from Rico.
We lease, well, yes, we lease. This is a 5-year, it's a 60-month program. Schools our size, they typically do these for 60 months, and it's a lease.
$7,000 a month. And
Something like that, yes. And then at the end of this time, if there's also, because I've gotten involved in this in a couple schools I've been at, if Rico doesn't win the bid, we have those machines in our name leased out, and somebody has to, you have to finish off that lease program. And so those machines have to be taken back, and a lot of times, and so we made sure because I've had it happen to me, where we didn't account for that in the bid, and then at the end, we're stuck trying to figure out how to get, a different company won the bid, and we're trying to figure out how to get 20 machines back to the lease company and who's paying what. So that's in there, just a lot of things, and you'll see it it's a 10-page RFP. Most of my RFPs are 2 or 3 pages long. RFP is just a request for proposal. Anything that goes over $15,000, we're mandated to. I typically bid things out that even if they go over 5 to 10, just so we get a competitive price on them. But by law, if it gets over 15, I have to put out a bid, a request for proposal. We try to do all of our RFPs for a 2-week time period. Linda helps, Troy helps me a ton with RFPs, and Troy and Linda work together, making sure we get all of our different RFPs in the newspaper here locally. Most RFPs, you're required to get it in a newspaper somewhere. We maintain a vendor list for all the different services that we do throughout the year, and so that if people want on that vendor list, we make sure we make direct contact with them, either digitally or some sort of contact, to make sure they know that there's a bid going on in that service at that time. So,
So Dr. Lorenz, the print services, for what we do, I think years ago, we used a local printing company. Do you know what that compares to, of us holding one on campus compared to using a local company? You know, the pricing, does that benefit us to actually have our own print shop when we could use someone local if the pricing's there?
I don't have an answer for, it was before my time. I'm not sure, are you talking about Green Printing maybe?
Yeah, well, any company.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they did contract off campus for print services.
I think it might have been years ago, and, I could be wrong, but that's what my memory is.
The thing that typically, well, I don't know about that blended like that. But typically, with schools, Warrensburg and Sedalia are the 2 schools that I use to compare. I get information from their business operation people to see how they're structuring their RFPs, because it's such a tangled web. I thought, and I even met with both the business operations people about a year ago to see if they were interested in trying to come up with a different solution besides the print shop. They had both compared it and checked it and said they couldn't get rid of their print shop. There was too many specialty items. Now, as far as the cost, what print companies who want to lease you printers, if they have a way to facilitate a print shop, they're going to want that in the bid, or you're going to pay for that in the cost of the lease. Without that, it's almost like you can't, I'm not saying you can't have one without the other, but it's going to be reflected in the cost of your print machines for the rest of your lease.
Yeah. Well, and I get having copiers and printers, that's what we were discussing, that you have to have those in different locations. So maybe the print shop is where I'm going at, is just as far as, those specialty items of a large abundance,
I think you're talking about the envelopes for the district stationery we used to get out to print shops.
Okay. And now you're able to do that on
your own.
in-house? Okay.
Yeah, we used to do the newspaper calendars, things like that. I worked with Green Printers for a long time in the journalism and the Marshall Democrat.
Okay.
And we would bid them out individually because we didn't have a print capability.
And so Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I'd go to find out if a company would even split it out. I don't know of anybody that I've worked with in the 4 districts I've been at. And recently, now that I'm in a school this size, talking to schools this size and how they do it, none of them have, that I...
And this might be the best way. I
Yeah.
was just asking a question.
Turns into it's kind of a...
We don't have a central printing area, do we?
We have a print shop
Yes.
location. Right now, it's at the high school. So the print shop was out at Spainhauer, and was it 2 years ago? We had to move it, we moved it from Spainhauer to the high school, trying to be convenient for the high schoolers. We were moving classrooms out, and we needed every room that we could get out at Spainhauer. We had to pay, because that was mid-contract, it was outside of this 60-year, we had to pay Rico to come in. We could have moved the machines, but we'd have been liable for anything that broke. We paid him some money, which was unfortunate. In this, we are moving the print shop one last time. It's heading to Northwest. They needed some space at the high school. In the RFP, that was another thing that had to be accounted for, was the setup. Even if it's Rico, we're not paying that moving thing again. They have to set it up at the location that we have. We have to do some electrical work to make sure it's able to handle the size machines they need, but we're not going to be charged that extra. So many things with the print shop.
So we're moving print shop again right now? We're getting ready to move it out to Northwest?
It's going to Northwest, yes.
And we're going to have to pay that moving fee again?
No, we're not. That's what,
It'll be
because
in
this new bid.
it's because that we caught it here the decision just came to us, and then that's the way it was best decided to move it.
Yeah.
We were able to fold it into the bid.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
anyway, that's and the other, I'm going to talk about securely in a minute. The other one was the camera temp readers. We're looking at, we've got out on bid some automatic camera sensors that can check in volume at our 3 big buildings, which will be Spainhauer, Beaker, and high school, where we can funnel people through an area, and it can read up to 15 temperatures at a time, as they're just in a natural walk as you come in. Those things are out for bid right now too. You can decide, we'll see those come back, and you can let me know. But that, I just want to let you know that that's what, if you see something about temp camera readers, that's what that is.
So I knew Dr. Mayer mentioned that the other day. Is that something that's kind of a best practice recommendation, or?
Actually, it was until today.
Yeah.
Okay.
And everything changed at the governor.
Right, it did, yeah.
Everything changed, and when the governor opened the state, Desi had a webinar today, and a lot of the, in my report is everything that changed.
Perfect. Okay,
So,
great.
yeah, it was the greatest. In fact, we went to ConAgra.
Yeah.
Was it the?
ConAgra.
We went to ConAgra to view their system, they have it. And we thought it was going to be fabulous, and it would be fabulous. I just don't know if we're going to need it now.
Okay.
Right.
Great.
And that was the discussion that we can have that discussion later, but I just want to let you know that RFPs are out on the market right now. Where's my sheet at? So we're not talking about Spainhauer anymore. A couple of quick updates, some few things that the maintenance folks are working on. They are about to get they're taking the lockers out of the high school commons. We're utilizing those lockers, repurposing them to the boys' locker room over at Beaker. We got the old black ones out of there, and they were a horse to get out, but we got them out and got down to the floor. We thought we were going to be able to strip it, wax it. The wax had been on there and not anything done with so long that we couldn't chip it up. So we had to rent a sander. We're sanding that floor down. We're going to epoxy that floor and then set those high school lockers over there. If there's still some more of them that they're wanting to get rid of, Paula had requested that we do the same thing to the girls' locker room, but we're going to use those nicer lockers. I just don't want to stick those lockers underneath the stadium somewhere and they get wet and rusty. So we may do a section of the girls' locker depending on how many lockers we end up at the end of this. So that's at Beaker. Also at Beaker, they had we're going to have to replace an electrical panel in the kitchen because we just found out the circuits are bad and we can't find parts for that old thing, so that's going to happen. Over at Northwest, along with getting the print shop ready, their TLC is moving to that building, and so we're having to get a restroom remodeled. When they were out here at TLC, they walked over either to the Tudor House and my shower over at the guest house pretty much daily for people that might need a shower. So So that's what they're doing at Northwest. They're removing, there was a lot of labs at Northwest, so they're removing some wiring there as well. The tech committee, tech group they're actually ahead of schedule. They're hoping to get completed by the first week of July. There's a lot of movement going on with technology with all the other move that's going on. I mentioned in there that MMU's helping us re-terminate some existing fiber in all buildings, no cost to us. Which brings us to the securely, which I think I sent.
Can I stop you for just a
Yes,
second
ma'am.
before you go?
You bet.
Okay, the first question I have is where those lockers are coming out, what's the plan in that space?
Where the lockers are coming out.
At the high school?
At the high
What's the
school?
plan for that space, where they're coming out? What was the reason for taking those out?
You want to go with that, Ian, or you want me to go ahead, Ian?
We're updating, we're gonna update the commons area for our students. It does free up wall space for us, so we can provide more recognition opportunities for our kids. And we also want to design the space a little bit, I don't know, I guess, a little more user-friendly for our kids, as well as recognize some of our fine arts programs on one of the walls with a set of trophy cases that we already have. We have done a little bit of fundraising for that. The Bishop Club was very generous this last year, then we kind of got slapped in the face by COVID. So another thing with the lockers, one of our elementary principals reached out to me, and they do not have storage space for their students in their classroom, and so they have requested 25 of them, and I'll be able to help them out with that as well. And so this isn't just for Beaker, this is just for the high school, this is going all the way down to our elementary kids. They're in great working order and everything. The reason why the girls' locker room had been updated at Beaker since more recently than the boys' locker room. And so when we went in and looked at it, they didn't really want to change it because it was all freshly painted and nice. But it would certainly be nice, make that area a lot nicer and give our students something that they can use rather than something that's taking up space.
Awesome. And then when you were talking about the remodeling of the bathroom at Northwest, you said that the kiddos from TLC, from Spain and Heart had to come over to the tutor house and use my shower. So am I missing something? I mean, do you?
The shower at my office area. I mean, my office is in Tudor House.
Okay.
And there is a shower in there, so we had trouble for a while with we had some plumbing issues actually at both places. And when it was down, when the guest house one was down, we came over there.
Okay.
So at Northwest, there's not a shower in there.
Okay, are you the only one that offices at the tutor house then? I'm just trying to make sure I understand.
Yeah, my office is in Tudor. Downstairs is Marilyn with the grandparents. She runs the grandparents program.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that was the system out there. As we moved TLC over to Northwest, we have to come up with some solutions for that. And the only way we can really do it is remodel a current bathroom and try to work a shower into there. And that's what's happening right
Do we
now.
have a master plan for the Tudor house somewhere down the road?
I think that's completely up to the boards. At a time, they wanted to,
Trying to get those.
yeah, just trying to get the building in, but when it first came on, the idea was, because we use it for, a lot of people do, it gets used quite a bit throughout the school year for PD, a lot of different people. The grandparents program use it two or three times a month. They have meetings out there.
Back to the master
Yeah,
specific
I was gonna say,
plan.
I think what Harry's talking about is, do we have a master plan for all that we are doing out at Spainhauer, out at the Hab Center campus? Harry, I've been asking for that for
Yeah,
a long time.
Two or three times.
I've gotten a couple of things.
What I got was,
It had a draft, like what I had draft up at the top of it. So I think that it's probably important to to find the finalized plans that had been going on with boards prior to this one.
some kind of a vision that we, no, I'm
Yeah,
having a lot of.
what are you going to use the building for?
Some kind of vision
And
that
there's
says 5 years from now, the Tudor house is
Yeah.
gonna be knocked down and be replaced by,
And I wonder-
that's our dream.
I
That's
wonder
our
really
vision.
if we're going to have to rebuild that vision. I wonder if, because I've only seen something that has draft up at the top of it.
Yeah.
So if it's still a draft, it's there to be revised.
You bet. It'd be a great work session on when they talked about it before.
You and I talked about the road and.
Correct, the road. So, I mean, is there a in place, I mean, the plan has been from the beginning, when the original board talked with the city, who was talking with the state, to bring on that Hab Center property, the plan has been to use the two better buildings on the, I don't know what direction that is.
And we've got a baseball field out there, it's weeds now, but, I mean, I'd like to know.
Behind Spain, how are you? Yeah, that's gonna be part of our, no, that's gonna be part of the outside play area.
Are you talking about the little one behind Spain, or the one on the big one on back?
Now, the big one, is that ours?
No, it's not. None of that's
Why
ours.
not?
Well, our property doesn't go back that far, yeah. So, Dr. Mayor, is this plan for, this vision, this plan, is that something we could add to the strategic plan? Sure. Your process? I mean, and then it's an active moving document that our staff, all of our employees have an opportunity to buy into. I feel like that would be, it might not be a piece of it right now, but maybe something we could add to it.
There's just been so much going on facility-wise.
Sure.
But it has been, I don't know, gosh, that was, the first week that I got here was the first time that I heard about Hab Center, whatever, so we've been working on it for 7 years.
Right.
So, yeah, there are things in place, but it's certainly time to update it.
Yeah, I just feel like maybe that's a piece that maybe could go right in that strategic plan and be working.
And we've wanted all along to try to keep the integrity and the historical value, and whether or not that can even be done, I don't know. But yes, we do need to move forward.
Yeah, there's nothing out there that's so in stone. I mean, my hope was that I could use one of those buildings for distribution and one of those buildings for maintenance. That's the reason why we grabbed the two bigger buildings up there. The other two, we immediately thought as a resource center. The front one, the Tudor, at that time, the talk was office space, sort of a presence to the front of that property from a district position. That can change today if that's.
I just wonder, as a whole, as a district-wide, if we have a projected, transparent vision of what our goals are, district-wide, building by building, campus by campus, whatever we need to look at that, so that that's a living, working document that our teachers that are working there, they have a vision, you guys have a vision, the board has a vision, the community has a vision, the city has our vision, we can see there. I just wonder if that's not a great working document in that strategic plan process.
It is.
Especially since we're so new in that.
It is.
We're really at the first quarter of that strategic plan, even though we've missed a whole quarter of it.
And when it comes to those facilities, I think that conversation needs to start with the board, that the vision for what we do out of the Hab Center needs to start here, and we bring in others as well.
District-wide. I mean, I don't think that we just focus, our community is not focused on solely the Spain Tower. We're focused on the district-wide and the buildings everywhere.
I agree. My concern is just that, especially for, I started from a place of concern of not having an idea about where we were going with Hab Center property. And so to extend that out sounds like a good thing. So it sounds like that might be something that we want to add to an agenda sometime soon.
I just think that's a good, I think that's a good place for us to.
I think that it would take, and I had talked to you about a retreat, but I think to take a look at the strategic plan and try to get, where we're going to continue on now that we had to stop mid-March. That would be something really great that you could talk about and put into motion.
Absolutely.
At that retreat.
Yeah, you could almost complete you could almost, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Dr.
No, it's okay. No, everything's fluid. It's, a lot of the issue out there also was.
Well, sometimes I get asked questions, I don't know.
You bet.
I drove up there with my wife one time, and she's the hardest.
No, there were several work sessions with the board, just to, it's just been a constant rough. We can only own some of that property until, we can't own it until the building is down. So there's still 10 more acres of it that's ours, but we can't own it until those bigger buildings are down. So that was kind of what happened to the other.
And it doesn't matter if we own it or not if we don't have a visual working plan. And it may be there with you guys, which is great. I have no idea. And I've met with the city and my councilman to see, he's driven me around out there to show me what's what and what his vision and selling this to us, selling it as in proposing it to us, giving it to us. But really, what have we done? I know you have a plan. That plan is probably
Well, and there's been plans made, and then there has been boards
Upset the
have
fruit,
changed,
yeah,
and
get
then
it.
more plans made,
Get it.
and then boards have changed.
Yeah, I would just love to see a working plan that board after board could work on and grow on, and I
I
think.
would love that.
I think coming in and sitting down, you can see here that we've done homework, and we're eager to see and feel, but we need to be able to, I know I'm day one of 3 years, but when I walk out of here in 3 years, if I don't get to come back, somebody needs to be able to sit down in the seat and really grow from something that's visual and working, and there's nothing right now. And so, I think that's
Well,
something that.
there are things.
No, don't get me wrong, there's
What you can grasp on, yes, you're right.
Yeah, there's nothing that I can sit down and.
Nothing is benchmarked.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just think that would be really beneficial for our entire district. I think it would be beneficial if our district had that to share with the city. I've said in the boardroom when the city came to us, maybe not as the city, and said, you really need to do this to support the city. Well, that's great, but do you guys really get us?
That's right.
Maybe they do, but I can't guarantee that they do. And so I just think that would be a good plan for us. I'm not saying that it's right. I just think that it would be a good setup and a good design for us to be able to say, look, we are working towards this goal.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that sounds like it'll probably be an agenda item.
Dr. Lorenz,
Yeah.
I want to take you back since we're on the Spainhour property. So we took a tour out there with you, and correct me if I'm wrong, also on this picture, were you saying that there will be a circle drive in here for the buses to get down in there and come out? And the reason why I'm asking is because the neighborhood over there on Lincoln Street is congested with parked cars, so I didn't know if that was going to be a busing problem that we have, and if so, we need to probably talk to the city and see about that. That is a snow route also, but right now, it seems that everybody's parking on that street, and if we're having a school out there, I don't think it's going to be beneficial for our school buses to be trying to get in and out of that property. So I just want to see if you could, make sure that, or talk to the city, see if that's going to, they're going to enforce that.
Is that typical? I mean, typically, there's a lot of people in this town on the snow routes that park on the street. Is that just okay everywhere?
No, we don't want to encourage that.
Well, no, I think what he's saying is people disregard what the city's asking them, where the city's asking them not to park, and they park there anyway.
Yeah, it'll definitely have to be something addressed, just like the entranceway roadway. The city's planning on working with us they don't want, but while we have all the big machinery coming in, eventually that roadway is going to be widened too, but you're right.
I just want to,
You're right, that will have to be.
with our kids and everything.
We'll have a ton of traffic, a lot more traffic will be coming in now.
That's right.
So it'll have to be addressed.
I even wonder about even requesting a light out there, right there at that intersection, because the kiddos are going to be coming across the street. If they're walking to school, then they're coming across the street. The buses are going to be trying to turn in against traffic.
Should be part of the business.
Yeah.
City's been
That's where
very,
the city and the
city's been very good. The city wants it
Yes.
to work. And they've been
Absolutely,
very
just
good, and that's why they put the new poles with the new lights in there already to help us out, because it was so dark out there before. But they've been very responsive, and when we need something, they've jumped right in there. So I feel pretty good about that.
Okay.
So.
I'll let you get back.
Okay.
Sorry.
I just gave you that as some information on this securely. We were talking around and about it, about mobile devices. So when this hit us, when COVID hit us, let me back up a step. In the last 2 or 3 years, we've increased the number of machine devices in our inventory by over 1,000. It's probably closer to 1,300 by now, just in the last several years. So I hear people saying that we have less technology. But our infrastructure and our technology has grown in leaps in the last 3 years. And I was hoping to have some information to catch you up to speed on a fiber project for both here on this high school campus and out at Spainhour, trying to get the last 10% of a E-rate grant. It's like a $490,000 fiber ring project. We have got 90% of it covered. 90% with E-rate, or 80% with E-rate money, 10%. We're waiting on the last 10% from DESI to fork it over, and once they do, we're going. But I'll give you an update wherever we're at. But as far as technology, when COVID hit, we had some devices. We certainly didn't have enough devices to send something home for each student. That wasn't, and a big problem with our community is our service areas. There's large pockets of area that cannot get a signal. It's not like they can't afford the device or don't have the device. It's just tough for signal in some of our areas towards the junction, back up towards Stuckey's. So that's an issue. So there was a lot of talk about hotspots and how we could do that and how we could do this. And through all of that, we knew that we were going to need to do something with the mobile devices that we have, that we either have for our staff or our students, whether it's student checkout or staff take home. Once the machine left campus, we really didn't have any. Here on campus, we have filtering, you log in, it's secure, we can, the environment is controlled, but for those mobile devices, we did not have that. Securely is simply a platform that helps you do that. There's another one out there called Bark, and I'll be making contact with them, or this was the RFP I was telling you that we're going to go out with. We're putting it together right now to get the scope of work on it, but that is what it does. It talks a little bit more here. This was we met with a gentleman trying to sell it securely, but it has a lot of different benefits, not just filtering. There's parental control for parents if they take the device home. Their filtering allows you to weed out, really identify bullying and cyberbullying and different things that I mean, it was a pretty strong search engine. I was pretty pleased with that. By picking up this program, and the preliminary cost, and I don't have the final cost yet because I asked them for a 1 year, a 3 year, and a 5 year price break to see if there was anything that would save us if we did something like this. Of course, their 5 year was their best, and with this Securely company, based on our student population of 2,500, which is what they go by, they were at $9.21 a student a year. So that was about just a little over $23,000 of an annual fee. But one thing that goes along with that is we could use something like this. Securely is robust enough that we could stop paying the $3,000 or $4,000 software fee that we pay currently for our on-campus filtering, and a program like this could handle both our on-campus devices and anything that goes home. Any mobile device. As we grow, the tech committee has been great working with me. We've got a step over this past year, and we've kind of had it all laid out before COVID hit, but they helped me pick out the device, the desktop device that we were most comfortable with. We picked out the mobile device, and we picked out the laptop. And so we kind of had that all narrowed down, and then the rails kind of fell off. But we did also, one thing that's going to help us in this cause, because it's so expensive to purchase, maintain, and sustain technology equipment without some extra money coming from somewhere. We've pushed the limit with what we can do with the dollars that we have, but something that is nice is Chromebook has changed the way they operate. They used to, they were an inexpensive machine, but they forced you in an upgrade about every 2 or 3 years, and you didn't have any choice. Well, they are now and I don't know if it was because of COVID, but because it happened just before or right around. But anyway, they are allowing nonprofits to do like a 5 year instead of what they used to do. When they said that the device was no longer good, you had to switch it. So that was too costly for us. But anyway, we're moving down that road. We're adding devices. We're trying to add more mobile carts, so we have a little more flexibility with them. So we're not stuck in with a hard desktop machine in a classroom. So, but I have got you a hard copy of this. I'm going to email you the link because there's a video that you can look at that talks about this a lot more clearly than I can tell you.
One thing that I really like about this system is it's sophisticated enough to go out and read what the kids are saying. So if on social media they're talking about suicide, for example, it can contact the school.
Awesome.
I mean, when they're on your device working.
Yeah, when they're on our device.
Yeah,
that's an amazing system.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it looked very, I mean, it was, I'm sure a lot of people were selling it and they have amazing systems, and it's not cheap, but it's probably turning into something that's going to become necessary.
I have a quick question
yes,
for you.
ma'am.
When you're talking about Chromebooks, and I'm assuming maybe or maybe not. I saw in the expenses that there were some Chromebook licensing paid for and things like that. Explain to me what that, I guess one of my questions is when you talk about Chromebook doesn't give you an opportunity, you have to pay for these upgrades or whatever. How, and if you give me this, I'm going to be really impressed, but how many of your devices, and you might not be the person I'm supposed to ask this to, but how many of your devices that you're using on your campuses that are able to be remote, that we're talking about here, how many of those are 5 years old? I mean, where do we fall? Like, it's great that we have, I'm going to use an exact number, but it's great that we have 500 Chromebooks, but if 400 of those are over 3 years old, then they're out of date, even if we relicense them. And so, how does our technology really fall? When we get new, how are our percentages going with being updated and new and responsive and today?
So if you look at technology, like you might look at uniform purchase, where it's on a rotation and a schedule. Most schools do like a 5 or 6 year uniform rotation. Well, it was much bigger than that several years ago, but we have got that kind of pushed down to about a 6 or 7 year turnover. We try, as we're looking at our budget, we're trying to manage this many devices on X amount of dollars of budget and also be sensitive to how that turns over. We have some devices, we had some devices in one building this year that were considerably older than that. And in this move, it just wasn't cost effective for us to move those old devices and re-hardwire them somewhere else. And that's the reason why as those devices leave, we are absorbing that with more mobile cart devices. So in an ideal world, for me as an old technology coordinator, I would, and as an old basketball coach, I like 5 year uniforms and I like 5 year computers, but there's a cost to that.
Oh, yeah.
There's, in a district this size, it's not just tens of thousands, it's hundreds of thousands.
Well, the reason I ask that is when our community members are talking about, and especially with COVID, and we're talking about distance learning and not having a lending program and all of these things, it's great if we have a box computer that is sitting there, but if it isn't if it's not up to date or if it's not working great, then we're just adding stress and complication to our process. And so when you say our technology has grown by leaps and bounds, that's wonderful, except those other things are getting old. And so how do those fall off? I don't expect an answer to that necessarily. I just think that...
So this district hasn't been taking, let me rephrase that, because Monty was great and he did a lot of great things, but a lot of the E-rate monies that we garnered were more for staff and phones and different things. We have had a concerted effort to direct E-rate. E-rate is federal monies. It's a federal grant. But they only cover, and each year they cover less and less of what they do, and it was one of the reasons why I pushed hard for this fiber thing, because I think that portion of it's going to eventually go away. Just like there's 2 sections of E-rate federal monies, and we have been using 80-20 monies. Our district, because of our free and reduced lunch numbers, we are at an 80% reduction when we apply for E-rate grant monies. And so we only have to come up with a 20%. In our budget, we have been working to cover the district's portion of that. We've been spending about $100,000. So each year, the technology committee has been diverting about $20,000 out of their budget to cover our portion of the grant.
Okay.
And so when I say that we've leaps and bounds, some of it people they don't see, because we had to we've basically relined and our whole wide area network. We've gone through it, and we are in a very good place. And we were right now with the last piece of this was to get those 2 fiber rings fenced off, and our infrastructure is set, and then the money, we could stop diverting $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 of E-rate monies, and that can start coming back into our normal annual purchase of technology equipment.
So you're saying that you feel like after this latest fiber move, you feel like our infrastructure is there to support going forward?
Everything from wireless access points to switches and hubs in our closets, our rack mounts in our closets, everything has been going over.
Okay.
And I mean, it's, as an old, like I said, an old tech guy, that doesn't happen everywhere, and that's
I think that's a
happening.
good, I mean, I
And
think
that
that's
has
good to know,
happened.
because I had no idea
Yeah,
that.
no,
we were-
that's
I mean, that's good to know.
our infrastructure is second to none in this area, I can tell you. And we're doing that because we are bringing so many things across our network now that we weren't before. You know, we're bringing our cameras, we're bringing our phones, we're bringing our access points. Everything is coming across our network, and we have to be able to match that transmission speed across fiber, and it wasn't there, and it is there now. So I'm very happy of where we are with our infrastructure, and I know that we need to get some more mobile devices. I know that. And so money, and Dr. Mayer has kicked our budgets up some because there's just such a flush of needs. But the biggest thing is, you hit on it, which people don't see, is just getting more machines. You have to be able to sustain them. And so that's why this build towards more and more mobile devices has been a lot more slow, a lot more steady than some people would like. So
Okay.
that's my best
Thank
answer
you.
for that. So I will give you more information about security. I'll send that out in the mail to you. Moving crews.
Can I, one
Okay,
more
I'm
thing
sorry.
about securely, I just wanted to say, I'd be interested to know what the teachers who will be using this have to say about its usability.
About using the,
Securely, right? This
about
will
the
be-
filtering?
Well, it says teachers have to find ways to keep classes going. It sounds like this is something that teachers are using.
You mean like that, how they can customize the content, the
This is surely not just a filtering system, is it?
Well, a
It
big part of
says remote learning tools
correct.
for school closures and student wellness. So maybe I'm misunderstanding what securely is. Because if it's just a new, more powerful way to filter things, then that's...
It's on the back is kind of a...
But you're going to send us a video
I am.
that better describes that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I am. It's more of a watch, I mean, we have to have filtering and things on campus,
You already
on
have it.
devices. We just don't have it for mobile. The biggest
Correct.
part to me,
So it is.
It's just a filter.
Because, yeah, so it's just a filtering, because
Okay.
if, otherwise they could get on sites that they shouldn't be on, and so this is a way to filter it due to the school's probably responsibilities
Yes.
inside their buildings.
That much I
So
get.
it is a device of ours.
Really, really good.
Brian,
I've been looking at this Securely site for a while since he emailed it to me, and since I'm not in the room with you all. It does include a parent portal and some other aspects as well. So it does look like it would cover some components that could replace maybe Dojo or some other things that we currently use as well.
Well, and looking at the comments,
The teacher.
yeah, and looking at the comments from the parents, some of those comments did talk about multiple sites, whether it was the Google Classroom, the Doho, there were several. I only know Google Classroom because that's the only building we were in, but, yeah, good to know, Brian.
okay, thank you, Brian.
I'll be interested to see that video.
Yeah, we'll see the video.
yeah, I'll push that, I'll get,
Explain a lot.
either tonight or first thing in the morning, I'll push out, I'll put everything that I pushed to Brian just a minute ago digitally.
Okay, moving on.
Any other questions about Securely? I'll have more information, I'll have those as soon as I'll push you securely out digitally. If I get any other interest in putting a bid on, like Bark or someone, I'll push that information to you too. Everybody that, bigger schools, or any school for that matter, but as they push more devices out, they have to account for the security of that device for the safety of the school. So that's what this is sort of about. Any more questions down to there? I just, one last thing on there, I just wanted to say kudos for getting that Tommy lift truck. That thing has been, it literally, between that one and the trailer, we thought we were gonna have to rent a U-Haul because we're about 3 weeks into the move. We were slightly ahead of schedule, so we were hoping to get it done inside of 2 months. We're gonna beat that. But the Tommy lift truck has been a wonderful addition. A lot of heavy stuff getting dropped down, lifted, and picked up.
Forgot about approving that.
Say what?
Oh, I forgot that we even approved that. When it comes, so we're ahead of schedule with the move, that's great news.
Yes.
So that makes me wonder, because it brings up moving crews and custodial. Didn't we leave off kind of on a it seemed, Dr. Owens, that you hadn't quite made up your mind about whether we were going to be giving vacation to the maintenance crew. Was a final decision made about that? I missed it.
We put it in the hands of the administration.
Okay, and, but yes, and the decision was, what was the decision?
About vacation?
Yes, for the maintenance crew.
That they needed to take the vacation before they came back to work.
So they can take vacation?
Before they came back, before they were assigned coming back, like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was.
So, okay, so they're still...
Because it's such a critical time now that no one's taking a vacation.
I just didn't know that a decision had finally been made.
Well, but I think it was said, we'll put it back in the hands of the administration.
Oh, it was-
It wasn't voted on by the board.
No, but then I didn't know what decision had been made. I must have just missed it.
Yes. It was just sort of decided.
Okay, well,
I don't know if it was Harry, I think it was Harry. With the new board members, he asked me about the pictures that I've been taking.
Oh, yeah.
About Spain, I think it was Harry. We reorganized just a little bit. Sorry, my new knee, it takes a while to get warmed up. I just pushed to our website, and if you go to the homepage, you go to district, you go down to building projects, you'll see,
I've got a couple on my phone too.
you'll see all the different ones here, but we've jammed that because it was a little bit confusing, the Spainhour one, because there's several different projects. If you go down to the very bottom, we've reorganized that, and you click on Spainhour, you can see there's a kitchen, there's the old roof HVAC, and then the new addition. So that's, all those are right in there. You can
So can
find.
you click on the addition so we can see
Yeah,
what?
it's trying to load right now.
Oh, sorry.
There's a lot of pictures on there. And I don't know why, Troy helps me, I shoot shots to Troy every day, and I don't know why it doesn't put it in some form of or by the time of occurrence, but I don't have anything.
Those are all over.
Yeah, a lot of those are all, I can't remember if it puts front to last or last to front, I can't remember. But there's a progress of that
Yeah.
from the beginning to today.
Green says M on it.
Yeah, that was Bill sent me that. Anyway, that's, Harry asked me about that, and I just want to make sure you saw it. And you can see, over the time that I've been here, the 5 years, back there in that district, building projects, there's a number of different. I didn't do every single project we did, but you can see a number of the different bigger projects that we tried to update, so I just wanted to show you that, what you asked me last week.
So can we
What
get,
you sent out the other day was even more up to date than one side.
it is, okay. I was just gonna say, maybe we need to push that, make sure that the community knows they can go to that site and see it.
Like there's hope to put a roof on it soon.
Yeah, it's coming. I think that's coming, but I think if there's an opportunity for us to share with the community that there's pictures available online,
There's lots.
it gives them some hope, yeah, to go look at that.
Did anybody have any more questions for me?
I am finished. Thank you.
You pretty well.
All right.
okay.
Glad to help anytime, and if you're new, if you don't have my phone number and you want it, just let me know after me, you can get, I'll put you in my, you can get my contacts, and I probably need to get yours too, so I know who it is ringing, and I get hundreds of phone calls a day, and some I answer and some I let go voicemail, but if I saw your names, I would answer it. I promise you.
Nice to know you're screening.
Okay, moving forward, we're going to go on to item number 8, letter E, Superintendent Report with Dr. Carol Mayer.
Today, yesterday, the governor let us know that he was going to open the state, which he did today. And then today, there was a webinar from DESE, and it changed quite a bit of what we were thinking. The young children in our district, the little kids from 2nd grade down, are not as much of an emphasis in this plan because the State Department doesn't consider them as much of a risk as adults. So that's pretty well known, I think, and I had asked, well, aren't they carriers for adults? But that doesn't seem to be appropriate or accurate either. So these are the things that are understood by DESE and that they mentioned today, that social distancing may not always be possible in some situations, especially I guess when you're talking about little kids. Temperature screenings may not always be necessary. There must be a plan in place for possible positive cases, and students should stay in the same groups to prevent or to backtrack. If we happen to find that we do have a case, we have to trace back to see where the kids were and who was around them. Those were 4 areas that they wanted us to consider, and they wanted us to make sure that we had discussed. And they also, like Diane said, they also did say, have a plan, be ready to pivot. I heard that quite often. If our county status is high, and right now it seems to be, waning, which would be great, and the high school students can't distance, then they should wear masks, was one of the reoccurring themes. Most of the updates, however, are local decisions, and this is on the DESE webpage. I did want to show you that the slide presentation is available on DESE. You click on it at the top in red, it says COVID updates. Here are all of the slides that we talked about today, and that the commissioner, and there were 2 specialists, pediatric doctor was one, infectious diseases was another, but here they talked about school reopening, about how the kids, 60% of most cases where there has been one person infected, 60% of the people who become ill after that are adults, and 6%, 65 and over, that's 60%, only 6% are usually students, and oftentimes it's more like 3%. Here are all of the things that they are asking us to look at, to be sure to be able to trace our contacts, so that if we do have kids that are reported as ill, or family members that are reported as ill, that we can trace those kids and families back. One of the questions was, well, how is it then that the Department of Health is going to let us know that? The Department of Health can't give us names. They can't do that. They are going to be able to get in touch with schools. Of course, that's confidential information, and let schools know if there are kids or families that are ill, so that we can trace those back. Here are some of the social distancing suggestions that they had. One of the things that they are talking about is keeping kids together in groups, and those groups move together, and they stay together as much as possible, rather than kids flexing in and out, which is possible in some places and not possible in the others. They talked a lot about transportation, how we should think about taking care of, a lot of our kids live in poverty, and those kids need our help to get to school. So here is about how you can order masks and other PPEs. But there's some good graphs in here about how one infected student, this is a good visual here, one infected student here comes in contact with all of these other people. There's good information. All of these spikes and the different time frame where we saw different types of the population, these are countries in the world. Just some really good information that I thought you would be interested in. I can send you this. It's also available on DESE. They made it available this afternoon late.
Were they going to, I can't recall if they were going to email out the voice, the actual presentation also. Are they?
They can. You can go to, if you go to the DESE website and click on the red,
and also
it says
hear it.
watch again.
Watch again.
So you can watch it and hear it. Yeah.
It is good information.
Yeah, it's good information. Okay, so then, one thing that they did say though, that they kept saying over and over again that a lot of this is a local decision. that it is up to boards and administration to decide how to handle this. And so, over and over again, they would say, we don't want to tell you what to do. This is what we suggest, but we don't want to tell you what to do. A couple other things that we have, I'm sorry, Harry.
Nothing, I'm just muttering to myself. Usually they tell us what to do.
I had talked to a couple people about our strategic planning situation. We were going well. It was halted in March of 2020. The committees were formed on the board goals, on the basis of the board goals that were revisited last year. We hope that the committees will get back to work and possibly can bring us then their finished projects by the first week of August. The 4 goals are here. I will send you this presentation out so that you can see it. The goals are stamped everywhere, so I'm sure that I've sent you those 2 or 3 times since you decided to run for the board. You knew all those new people. We have 4 then committees. I put one here. This is the committee that I'm on, which has to do with district finances. This is an example of when we look at the goals. For example, my committee is for goal 4. Then when we take a look at that goal, we try to narrow it down to focus areas. And there are 3 focus areas that my committee identified. One was fiscal responsibility. The second one was create, implement, sustain short and long range fiscal strength. And the other was establish and maintain trust across the community. So those were the ones that we were working on. And here is a template. I think Grace and Diane made these templates, by the way. This is the template that we all use so that we are recording and looking at this kind of in a consistent way. You'll see that the focus area then is broken down into 2 strategies there. The action steps where we had identified the timeline and the evaluation we did not get to. That's where we stopped. So then you will see that the next focus has 3 strategies, and the final one then there was 1. So as we move forward with the strategic planning and we start getting together with that again and getting that work done, we will be asking board members to sit on those committees as you are interested.
We'll probably have to reassign them.
Yeah, we will. We will. I have those lists. Anyway, that's where we are with our strategic plan. It should be a very good, and by the way, goal number 1, if we go back, goal number 1 is about facilities. So that would be the area where you would talk about, you know, our vision and our plans for the future. So, yes, we're getting there piece by piece. A lot of work went
Do
in.
you have a preliminary report from goal number 1?
I don't know. Do you have your templates, Dr. Lorenz? I'm sure
Ian was the leader with us in this. Where are you at? You missed the first one.
I'm sorry.
I'm glad I'm here.
It's fortunate that you're here this evening, Ian.
I'm glad I'm here. We did have a couple of meetings, and we did get a few thoughts down on our focus areas. But as far as timelines, I think that's where we were at. We wanted to set some clear timelines so we could reach them. So we kind of had to hold all that. But yes, with a lot of things we just talked about, it fits into our safe and supportive environment for our students.
So just to give you some more information on our costs and moving forward, I had sent you this about our possible revenue losses. As of today, I don't know how this looks. It's really hard to tell, and this is something I wish I had more clarity on. But we will find out. The governor is supposed to have a press conference and let us know if he's going to take more money from the state funding formula. He took about, from Marshall, I think around $350. the last time. I hope it's not too much more than that, but.
On your projected budget or your approved budget that you all approved last year, what was your overage on that budget? Or were you right even on your budget?
We were, and this, I think I'm going to look at that. Here is the deficit spending that we had built up a fund balance of about 23%, which is the reserves. Then we had planned to deficit spend that down while we made transfers into Fund 4 to save for the addition. We had planned on moving the budget down to about 17 to 18%. And the Spainhour project is below or at balance that would have resulted in the 17 to 18%. In fact, last year we were 18.6%.
Okay.
However, now since the downturn, we may be looking at another 3 to 5 percentage point deficit spending this year. I wish I knew what to say about what I even expect. I think we may end up with a fund balance of about 14%, which is for me very low.
That is low.
Yeah, but so I don't know you know, it's still unknown yet. No one was expecting that downturn. No one was expecting that to happen. It's incredible to me when I look at our budget.
We don't have enough in our reserve to cover 755,000, do we?
No.
To cover what?
To cover 755,000 of the revenue that we'll lose next year.
What was our reserve? I couldn't remember. Maybe it was 2.
Our reserve right now is about 3.2.
3.2.
Yeah.
So we,
but
worst case scenario, we can survive.
We can survive. We'll survive. We'll survive.
The lease purchase payments comes out of where?
Right.
The lease purchase payment comes out of Fund 4,
Right.
which is the transfer that we have made every year. This year, we did not make that transfer.
Right. So that's going to drop considerably, which is, that 3.2 will drop considerably with that lease purchase payment and, right?
No, the lease purchase is in Fund 4 now. The payment for the lease purchase, we've already done that for this year.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We're not transferring, what we had done was we transferred out of Fund 1 and Fund 2,
Okay.
which is the operating fund, into the capital projects fund.
Right.
You can do that once a year. We did that every year to build up Fund 4. We did not do that this year.
Okay.
Because we wanted to keep money over in our fund, in our operating fund.
Okay.
So,
Now, Fund 3 is the debt levy, right?
Fund 3 is the debt service if we had a bond issue that we were paying back.
Fund 2 is
We don't have
teachers.
anything in Fund 3.
Well, we're one of, correct me if I'm wrong, we're one of 2 or 3 schools in the entire state that doesn't have
Not many.
anything in that.
Correct. Because we don't have a tax levy or a bond issue or anything like that, we're paying back.
I would probably a long time to ask this question too, but other than that, we'll go all night. What steps do we need to take to ask the voters to step in here and help us out here now?
You would have to ask the voters for a tax levy increase. Because you can't ask for a bond issue unless you have enough money in your tax base
We have,
to be able to borrow. And we don't have enough.
We don't have enough support right now to do that.
okay.
No. This is why we save for rainy days.
Huh?
This is why we save for rainy days. It's why we should have been
We got the
saving more. Now you have a rainy day, you know?
When we look at cost-saving possibilities, I think that, you know, it was very scary this year what happened to our finances, but it's going to be worse next year. Our revenues that we will not be receiving this summer are going to hit us next year. So we may have some people that we have to ask perform different types of jobs or different types of roles. Let me just put, for example, we may have to ask a paraprofessional who has been working with a classroom teacher at the beginning of the day to go down and take temperatures. Or we may have to ask a paraprofessional to ride the bus to scan kids' foreheads. We just may have to ask people to do different things. And I don't know exactly what those are. but I don't want to spring it on them August 1st and go, oh, by the way, be sure to be here at 5:30 a.m. because you're going to get on a bus. So anyway, we may have people that are in more than one area, they're working with different people. We may have to look at our transportation and think about how we view that. Transportation is the first thing to get cut, ever. We were down to only having 25% of our transportation funded, and they cut 13% off of that. So the district pretty much pays for our own transportation. So that's one reason that we look so carefully at those non-eligible miles and all of that kind of thing that we try to conserve on there. So, our CARES funding, I was asked to report on that, and we have received so far, we had a deposit for $442,768 that has been deposited in our account. We will receive the rest of that. You received 3/4 of it up front. Then the other 25%, correct, Chris? Is that right? The other 25%, when our non-public schools are identified, we will get that money. Now, that's not as easy right now as saying, well, we have the Catholic school in town. We have kids here in this district that go to other non-public schools. It's not clear yet whether we have to share money with those schools. So we're waiting for DESE to tell us that.
Dr. Mayer?
Yes.
Can you tell me what part is the federal and what part is the county?
Yes, right here next.
No, I mean, so the county, separate numbers.
That was just federal money. The first was just federal money.
Okay, so we don't have county, okay.
county money yet.
So you've applied for that?
Yes. Well, actually, I called them on Friday, and the application's not open yet.
Yeah.
Phase 3 is not open yet.
Yeah, that's correct.
So they said they would let me know when it did open and I can make an application. But the application that I saw from my other superintendent friends are like 13 pages long.
Yeah, it's intense.
It is intense. So, but we'll do it.
Yeah,
So-
of course, I mean, yeah.
But I'm not sure the county money, the way Saline County has it in 4 phases. The first 2 are for small businesses, the way I understand it.
You're correct.
And the third one is for schools and other nonprofits.
So the phase 3 is coming.
It is.
Yeah.
That's what I talked to Stephanie.
Yeah.
Sorry. I talked to Stephanie, and she said that phase 3 will be open soon. So
Okay, great.
I go on there every day to see if it is, but not yet. So anyway, this year we used our federal money that we received so far to pay high school teachers' salaries. Now, the reason we did that was because you have to have made the payment, or the expense had to have been encumbered before you could get the funds. So we turned in that we had paid our high school teachers and we received the money. If we didn't do that, then we'd have to wait for, who knows when, until we spent that money. So that we did spend it on salaries. That's what the the superintendent's finance bunch suggested that we do, so we did that. So that
you had to show
amount
the
then-
expense. You had to show that you actually had an expense in
Right.
order to recoup those additional dollars.
Right.
So that was something that businesses, organizations, if you could show an easy expense like that, then you were quick to get your money back in.
I'm with you on that. My follow-up question would just be, so then, I mean, we had the money in the bank to actually pay the teacher salaries, so then what are we going to use the CARES money for?
Then
Yeah.
that amount will be used for the scanners or what we decide that we need to spend for the virus.
So that money goes into what fund?
That money goes into Fund 2.
Okay, thank you.
But if it goes into,
Or it could go into Fund 1.
Yeah.
That money went into Fund 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
For salaries.
Okay.
If we decide that we're going to, say, pay custodians overtime, whatever, it will go to Fund 1.
You can move that.
But it can go to either
You can't
anywhere.
go out of Fund 2 once it's in there.
we do end up zeroing out Fund 2
Yes, we are going to put, there's a negative balance right now.
That's
Fund
the
two.
negative balance, is that the
So we
negative?
will take money from Fund 1 and put it into Fund 2
Okay.
to zero that out. You do that one time a year,
Okay,
at the end of the year.
wait. From Fund 1 into Fund 2, the teacher's
Correct.
balance.
Correct.
Okay, so, I guess I'm not following the accounting. I know what you're saying there, Ellen. I know that we're saying, yeah, we paid the teacher salaries from this. Maybe what I'm not understanding is two things. One, what specifically, and maybe you just haven't gotten to it yet, what specifically we're going to be spending the federal CARES money on.
Yeah.
And it sounds like maybe a plan is being formulated, and then.
Right, and it changes every day. But yes,
I mean,
yes, we will
true.
spend, that 442,000 plus the 25% that we get, that amount will be spent on whatever we need it for to take care of the virus expenses.
And right now, that 442 is sitting in Fund 1
That's my.
to be able to be moved one time a year into Fund 2 to zero that out. Am I saying that right?
That's what I'm
Yeah,
wondering.
but you don't want to do it right away.
No, you don't, because you want to do it one time a year.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure I understand, because this is all new to me.
Well, most of it is just bookkeeping, for example. When we get our sales tax, we get a portion of that goes into Fund 2,
Okay?
and a portion of that can go into Fund 1, and a portion of that can go into Fund 4. All bookkeeping. And then at the end of the year, then we can see what has been spent out of Fund 2 and how much more we need to put into Fund 2 because that's where teacher salary comes.
Right, okay.
But once it's in Fund 2, you can't move it.
You can't take it out, you can't take it out of Fund 2 except for once a year.
Yeah,
Once a
that's
year,
where you gotta
that's-
do it.
That's where I'm getting tripped up. Yeah, okay. Okay,
And you can take it out and put it, you can only put it in certain places. You can't.
Right.
that's why we're asking, yeah, about the
Put it-
specifics.
Woo-hoo, let's put it in the superintendent's vacation fund.
Exactly why we're asking,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
We just want to get those, we want to be able to say that we know where
Well,
this
actually,
money is.
Yes.
that helped us out a little bit, and then,
What we'll need to do then is when we spend our money on COVID-related expenses, I will need to give you all a report
Yeah.
showing
Uh-huh.
bulleted amounts and then it added up to whatever.
So my question is, if the state's mandates are less than what we had thought, and we don't need XYZ reader,
Right.
then this money, while right now we have it tagged for potential COVID reasons, if we don't incur those expenses, as Harry states, that helps us on that deficit number of 755, right? No? Somebody said no.
Well,
yes.
yes,
It's got to.
but it's,
But-
that's revenue that we're not going to get, period. This is coming back in and will it help? Yes.
I mean, my point is, I guess my question is, do you have guidelines on what you have to spend this 442,000 on?
Yes. However, we don't have to turn it in to anybody.
That's what I'm asking. Okay.
But our auditor at the end of the next year will say, okay, I want to see everything you spent your CARES money on.
And we have until September of 20.
We have until September of, yes, or December of 20.
So it was reimbursement
Anyway,
for,
it's-
it was reimbursement for income, for salaries, so you can't just put it back into salaries, because we spent the money to pay their paycheck. So I think where everybody's going is we just can't reimburse that.
No.
Because we actually already spent the,
You don't necessarily
technically.
need to, right? Yeah, you don't.
Right, we've already spent it, we've already spent the money that
We're
we're
going to use
getting.
that money for crisis situation.
It's a bookkeeping thing. So we will use whatever money we get, let's say the total is $555,000. We will use $555,000 for COVID. We may have to hire a new custodian,
Right, we're gonna have other, other expenses. And I get that. I think where the question was driving around the table was, we've already spent it, so technically, we don't need to go out and buy unnecessary, or everything's necessary, but things that knowing that we can be replacing the income.
We hired a new nurse at Beaker because we're going to have one this next year for
Right.
certain. So that salary then will go that money will help pay for that.
Out of that, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you are dead on. It's not like one of those we're not in a place where if you don't use it, you lose it. We've used
Because we've already
it. So
spent it.
it is important for us to be fiscally prudent as we move forward about what we spend things on.
Right.
That's
Right.
exactly
Yeah.
what that's exactly what we look at every day whenever we talk about
Yeah.
that. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so that was my report. Are there any other questions? Lots of questions.
Are we still participating in the health department's not having their regular meetings anymore, are they?
Brian, back up on the shelf. I'm sorry.
Well, we meet about, it's like once or twice a month, depending on when they really think we need it. Are you guys on those?
Uh-oh.
They've been a lot more sporadic, they're not weekly as they were.
No.
Okay, okay,
I haven't been on one in a while.
all right.
We had one 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe. I'm not sure exactly.
Okay.
Killed Brian.
But not, I think they're getting ready, I think they'll have one in the
Brian,
next week or
Michelle's not
so.
killed me.
All right.
Nice.
So sorry, Brian.
All right, it sounds like we're ready to move on to old business unless, oh no, we lost Brian.
I put Brian on the shelf and I killed him. I don't know what. Brian, I'm so sorry. It wasn't nothing personal.
Brian. Hey, Brian. Can you hear us okay?
Can you hear us all right, Brian?
Yes, when I'm back.
Welcome back, Brian.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, man.
Brian, did you have any questions for Dr. Mayer before we move on?
Brian, did you have any questions for Dr. Mayer before we move on?
No.
I don't have any of that or school finance. I'm pretty good with that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to old business. Item A, increase tuition rates at the following rates. K through 8, $4,000. Current rate is $3,850. 9th through 12th, raised to $4,800. Current rate is $4,620. And vocational school raised to $1,900. Current rate is $1,850.
So,
Do we have a second to open it up for discussion?
I'll second.
Oh, Matt, thank you.
And I would like to say that the plan is, and of course this is up to the board also, but I would like to increase the tuition over the next few years because we are way far behind other schools, so.
and the numbers last meeting were staggering, that were so far
I was gonna say, if I remember right from watching the meeting, like, even with these increases, we're still
Correct.
way under.
We are, we
And
are.
we wanted to keep, with new people, we kept the vocational because we're bringing kids in.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So it'll be important for us to revisit this next year at this time, if not earlier. Make sure it's added into the budget.
Okay.
All right, so with that said, any other questions, discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you very much.
All right, Grace.
Continuing on.
It's good stuff.
Continuing on with new business, item A, grants proposals approval. Quite a few. Title, I'll let you run us through that, Grace, if you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was.
Oh, well, you don't have to, I didn't, your name is here,
I
but,
will, yeah. I'm ready.
I like to see these plus things here, Grace.
Well, and so it looks really good, and Linda shared out a chart with you that kind of showed the historical data, because just seeing that we're getting 650,000 sounds wonderful until you know that that's 85% of what we got last year. So when you see the to be determined, right now that is showing 0 in my DESI budget grids, but I didn't want to put 0 because money, we've been told money is coming, so I just left it as to be determined. I do believe that it is coming, like migrants. We have one of the higher migrant counts in the area. We have an awesome migrant liaison, and our funds have been going up. So I would hope to see that continue because our student numbers of migrant children went up this year as well. The only other one, immigrant, is also to be determined. I do see money coming in that. The homeless grant, that's something that we apply for every year. We just turned that in on the 12th, so I don't know if we will be receiving that grant or not. I read through the grant, our social work team wrote it, it was amazing, so I don't have any concerns there. And 110,000 is based on our student count, our homeless students, that's $400 per student in that count. So rough history, looking at SPED, that was one of our budgets that actually did increase. which is good, but it's kind of a twofold caveat because in special ed, you have to maintain effort, maintenance of effort, the MOE every year. So you have to spend the same amount and more the next year. You have to continually improve your program. And they look at that at federal money, state money, and then local money. So we are seeing our federal money increase, but we will have to keep spending that, if that makes any sense. And the number is larger when you look on the chart, because when I figured this number, I went ahead and gave you the ECSC funds as well, because I knew coming in, we were looking at expenses as a whole, so I was trying to give you maximum amount. These are all of the federal dollars, the grant money that we're getting, so it is more, but
When you say we need to spend more, that's spending based on goals that you have, or is that designated spending that you have, where you have to specifically spend it?
So DESE breaks it down. Federally, they look at, did you spend as much of the federal money as last year? State, did you spend as much per child as one, and then locally. So we pay teacher salaries out of state sped money, and so we traditionally always meet maintenance of effort because salaries and benefits go up. So I don't see a problem with us meeting. It was just something to put out there. Each different area, like local is where we spend most of our supply because it's not wise to buy supplies with federal money because you can't account for pencils, paper, book, those little things. I don't know that answered your question.
Yeah, I just wondered, like, if your opportunity to, if you're getting more money, do you have opportunity to, is the spending designated for you, like you have to put it here, or is the opportunity for you to advance your program with the little extra that you're getting is what I'm asking, like.
We should be able to advance the program based on student needs. Yes.
Awesome. Okay, that's
So
great.
Coming into this, you have to budget all of these federal funds and state funds, so SPED funds and title funds in June. So this will be the first year that I actually get to do the budget for where those funds are going to go.
It's just unusual that we see an increase in this minute, so I'm like, ooh, money, let's advance a program.
Very excited about that. And speaking about technology, we did spend several special ed dollars on buying devices for our students because we do know that as a group that we didn't reach as well as we would have liked to. So expanding on that.
Okay.
Other questions about that? So as soon as I get the Title III immigrant funds and migrant funds, I can send you an update on that. I will definitely send an upgrade on the homeless grant because I think that will be good news and a very positive. That team worked very hard. Eden Dagonia, Lindsay Parton, and Jason Martin are all working on writing that. And our new social worker, Kayla Malter, also was involved in that. So it was really great to have fresh eyes on it because the three of them have worked very hard on it. Terry Porter, who was the special ed director before me, also came back and helped us go through that grant proposal because I'm new and I'm not well-versed, and she's been writing this with the team for years. So she came back, read through it, and we all feel very good about it.
That was very kind of her.
I just had one question about the homeless grant. What, and especially since you've recently read it, what is it that we're putting in for? What kinds of services?
A lot of our homeless grant focuses on paying staff members. It focuses on having a social worker designated to social work case manager dedicated to serving homeless students. We pay part of a homeschool communicator salary for that. One thing that they added to the homeless grant that was new this year is looking at revamping, and I hope that they're okay with me sharing all this that they put in the grant, utilizing the Makers bus that we have and making it to provide access for students around town and calling it the Nest. So reusing something that we already have, putting some of these grant funds into that. Grant funds are cut, so it's hard to grow a program with less money. So they were very creative in how can we make this continue to improve and grow and what can we do. And we talked a lot because it's a hard year because we don't have local funds that we can say, okay, locally we'll pick up a social worker and spend this on this at the kids need, because we don't have those local funds to do.
Does that mean that the Maker bus is going away?
No, it's going to be repurposed into a wireless environment.
Access point.
Oh,
awesome.
Okay.
And I can ask them to speak. They would.
Oh, no, I was just curious. I think
Been
that's.
nervous meetings on this, so.
So shall we entertain a motion?
I have one.
Oh, please, Matt,
Maybe you covered, what is Title V?
Title V is the rural education grant. It's just to ensure that our rural students have equal access.
Okay.
It's
it had to be determined on there too, and I didn't know if I missed you.
Yes, and it was something we actually got late this year. I believe around 50,000 is what we got in that fund this year.
I need to sing Jeopardy a little bit more in my head. Wait for comments and questions. Any other comments, questions? Brian, I'm checking in with you. Just give me a head nod. Oh, I see the head shake.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Good, good.
And same thing as Dr. Lorenz said, I will throw out there, if you need my cell phone number, shoot me an email. That's a good way to get hold of me, because when we're here, I'm not in the office a lot, or.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
Move so.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I heard the aye.
Thanks, Brian.
Good job, Grace.
All right, thank you, Grace. Please pass our kudos along to the rest of the team. And next on the list, under new business, future approval of fund transfers.
I just wanted to let you know that we'll be doing this next time.
Explain it all over again?
Yeah.
We'll pause here. Any questions, comments? No. Okay, well then let's move along to the track bids.
So, everybody groaned on that. Yeah, the timing couldn't be worse to try to do something with the track. But, Ed asked me last week if we could afford this, and I thought about that all week.
If you can what?
About whether we can afford that.
Afford it or not.
And I
Afford food right now?
that was the question you asked me, and I thought that, you can afford most anything if you're willing to give up most anything.
I
So
got
it's-
a question, dumb
Yes.
question. Jim, that's why I asked you earlier. How many home track meets do we do in a year?
Right now, I can expound a whole bunch, but I know it's 9:30 or something.
No, we are here to do the work, Jim.
Well, okay. Teams are choosy about what meets they go to.
Yeah.
We are choosy about what meets we go to. And, we make decisions based on, scheduling is one thing, but, the quality of competition, the quality of the facilities. And we've had to make a lot of adjustments in our home meet to the tracking team and such. So, yeah, our intention would be, obviously, if you had a first-class facility,
My
we would love to.
follow-up question then would be, if we put this off, now I'm not saying this yet, but if we put this off for 1 year and did all-the-way meets this year, and then really committed, because we've got $280,000 committed to it right now, and then really put all of the things in, put the curve in, and did the pole vault, did the long jump, would that be an advantage or something that you
Yeah, I
look at?
talked to a few of you. I really think with the uncertainty, I'd be perfectly. I would understand.
Yeah, that was my, I
Delaying this, and I think there's some other people who are going to comment on this as well.
all right, okay, that was my thought.
I would like to just add, I think that when we're looking at this as a whole, I think more importantly, we take away, we're not using the track for meets right now. But we are using the track for practice, we're using the track for PE, we're using that entire facility for PE, we're using that entire facility for athletic events, and I'm not talking just the track, we're using the fields and everything. None of them are safe even for practice, to be real honest. So I've spent a lot of time walking around out there. I've spent a lot of time with a kid with an injury, not from out there, but trying to protect going into that again. As recent as last Thursday or Friday, it must have been Friday, I went back out there and spent some time out there again just so that I could walk around and see what repairs were there, which are gone pretty much now, to how the community was treating it when they were out there, looking at the trees that are right next to the fence on the northwest side and how they're northwest moving around to the northeast, and how their droppings and clippings are falling onto that surface and they're just sitting and it's not well maintained. I think it does our community a disservice to just fix the track and not make it a long-term project to fix the entire thing. But this goes back to planning for the district and everything that we, you know, our entire vision. Where is our entire vision for the facilities all the way across the board? If you look at, and I've done some research on this because I am passionate about athletic facilities. I like facilities, period. If you go to Springfield area, Harry, they have, and I can share a picture, but they have given opportunities to organizations in their community to do long 5-year investments into their facility, and then they have permanent first right of refusal to display their logo on the field, or it's on the sideline of the field. And then they had one big donor that made the big donation that's literally on the field, and they played for their entire complex that way. I just wonder if we don't put together some, I mean, Tim had started that a little bit, but it was very quick. We were trying to hurry. I just wonder if we don't go back to the drawing board and look at, I mean, your booster club did it with your gymnasium. And I've said this to Dr. T, we've had this conversation in the past. I just wonder if we don't develop some sort of task force, some group that works to develop some sort of plan to work on these facilities. And I think that we're in a good space. If we have a new K-1 building, and the district has really put their money where their mouth is, and we've built that new facility, we are focused there, then we go back and we say, this group is going to look at our middle school kids and our high school kids, athletically, activity-wise, and maybe we can come up with some sort of plan and really encourage our community to help us through this.
We did the baseball field that way.
Yeah.
We funded the majority of the baseball field, many, where's Ian?
I thought he was going to get called on.
He was out of here.
So just a little bit of background information. When I put the $250,000 in, I looked in the recent future of what had happened before. So, and Ed filled me in, and I actually talked to Jim Shawnhorse, who was here, and Matt was just coming in. In 2000, around 2010, apparently, they reskinned it. And they did that for under a couple $100,000. So when I tossed 250 in there, I thought, okay, well, they did it then, and it didn't dawn on me. Well, that was only 5 or 6 years, and it was already lifting. So for me personally, everything that I've tried to do here for the school is to try to fix it right, the way the experts say it needs to be fixed. And I know we talked about, I thought maybe even going into it, that they could do some sort of fill and then cover, but that neither company that was interested in even giving us a bid said, if you don't take the dip out of the Blaine 4 and 5, and you don't put the thing on the right slope, and you don't drain the water away from the track, you're going to keep asking for trouble. And so, you know, and they both know it's a horrible year. Things have happened to try to do that this year, but they both, you know, they're both ready and willing, and they both say if you decide that you want to do that this year, they both tell me they can get the system laid that they've bid out here, which is 2 lifts of asphalt, by the way, and get the angle and degree.
I would not want to do it without also doing the curb.
Oh, yeah, I think you need to do, I mean, yeah, if you're gonna bite onto the beast, you need to do it. My other question is timeline. So to redo, you're talking about 425,000, let's just say 425,000, 505,000.
505 is the level.
Okay, so that's how many years? Like that's a guarantee for how many years?
He asked me, and their warranty is, you could get it for up to 7, but it's a 5-year warranty the way it's landed.
So in 5 years, then it will cost us what to refurb it again?
So I don't know when the original asphalt was laid and back, I can't answer that for certain, but I know that the systems and structures for the way they lay the asphalt and the type of material that is bonded to that the first time is substantially more than back in 10 when they basically peeled up the old and they put down the new. If you're peeling up and putting down, you're going to have a shorter shelf life than if you're putting down, just like we did with the tennis court, new asphalt, stuff over the top of it.
Well, the reason I asked that is I sat on Tim's committee, and one of the things that was a big point of discussion was, if you redo the track now and then you want to do the football field, then you ruin what you have trying to get the football field done. Now you're redoing the track. And so I guess one of my questions would be then, if we put this in and we don't need to refurb it for 5 years, does that mean that our football, does that mean our turf is out for 5 years?
Probably.
And so I guess for
So the
me,
reason why I threw the curb in there, because if you do turf, you need the curb. I threw it in there because I thought it would be easier if you ended the track at the curb. You wouldn't have to go back and disturb the track. You would have to.
You would just be trying to get over it.
You would have to put down a lot of material to make sure heavy equipment coming over it, but you wouldn't have to go in there and cut, because you would have to literally cut that asphalt all the way around to drop that curb in later.
yeah, so it's vital if you're going
And
to.
so, you know, and both companies that looked at it, and they had their GPS sitting out there, they said, man, do you know your water's not even going to your drains? I said, I know it is, it sits in there and it goes backwards almost
Yeah.
underneath it. So
Yeah.
the curb would be not only a fine end finish to the track, but it would be the start point of filling in backfill that we would have, that heavy work wouldn't have to be done at a later time. But the curb was put in there in case you know, to prepare yourselves for an eventual possible turf, and you already have that in there, because it has to be in there for turf. The curb does. It's the reason why I threw it in there this time.
So
I
we're
don't
at
know- I don't know-
250,000, not 280 or not 400.
250 is what I, 250 is the number that I put aside to.
That's left in the lease purchase, the previous lease
Right.
purchase.
280.
No, 250.
It's always been 250.
Yeah.
So the issue is it makes it really hard to go ahead and say, yes, we want to take one of these bids and actually complete it all. I think everybody would love for it to be completed, but then where do we pull money? That is the question.
It's a very tough one to do.
How long are those bids good for?
30 days typically. I'd have to go look in back in the original. Most of them are 30 days.
We could put it off one year.
So both companies, are you talking about time?
No, but I mean, could we put it off at least until we know what the budget looks like when we
Well,
have the numbers?
yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm not gonna vote yes on spending that much
No.
money.
When you don't have
I
it.
just promised the community that I'm gonna
No.
throw in here and keep you guys from spending
That's
that much money. So, I'm gonna vote
Yeah.
no on that. If we gotta vote on it tonight, then that's it. But-
Well, I just think it's a difficult, there's no doubt, it's a difficult year, it's a tough, with the way that the funding is going, it's tough to even envision something like this, but I know that they've been only to bring this to the table, so it's to the table.
Well, and I mean, if we can table it for at least,
Well, the problem turns, for this year anyway,
Yeah, you
we're
can.
at the end of the rope because of
Yeah.
football
I
season.
understand.
Great.
And so, we would rebid it, and I would start earlier in the spring, and we would have, I mean, it would give you time to see how bad this COVID money's gonna be. I mean, it would really buy a little time. I just would rather us, if we're gonna do something temporary, I just want to be in favor of that.
I don't think we do.
I just don't.
Brian, I'm curious what your thoughts are. You've been a kind of a part of this conversation all the way through it.
I think the safety aspect is a big thing for me. If
Yeah.
we're gonna have kids there, I mean, the revenues, the things that Jim talked about, you know, we haven't attracted a large track meet, conference track,
No.
meet, district track meets. We're not going to on that kind of surface. Those are also revenues that our town loses. When other towns come here, they buy food, they buy other things. It's not a lot of money, but it's some money. I'm not really necessarily in favor of it. When you were talking earlier about the signage, that was something that I was going to talk about a lot. You know, we really need to look every place. I coach teams, I've gone all over. Everywhere you go, you see signs hanging up. There's that large billboard like you saw. They buy the sign that they put because they put the large scoreboard up and it's Hy-Vee Arena or it's this or it's that. You know, you have to get some of these corporate sponsors that we have in town on board with some of these things.
Yeah.
I think if we go and we kind of dig into that situation, I think if we put a group together, I like the idea when you said, hey, let's get a group together and go out there and see if we can ask for and get. You know, and we say, hey, you know, maybe you're going to meet us halfway. You know, maybe we say we want to do the whole project. It was around $1.5 million, wasn't it, Terry? When we talked about
I think 1.2 is what most recent spent in this community.
Yes, and I think that if we look at going with those numbers, I've also went out to the track. 2 weekends ago, not last weekend, because I haven't left anywhere, but 2 weekends ago, and saw that there were a number of people from the town that are out walking on our track. They're not using the facilities at Valley all the time. They're coming and still coming to their hometown track or their hometown high school. And they want to be proud of that space as well, just like when we moved from Valley years ago when we were leasing field and got our own field out there. And I think that, you know, people will get behind something if they feel that it's a worthwhile cause. And I think we've got to go out and ask and check with our donors and see what we can get and kind of go that way.
Dr. Mayer, what is typical, I figured that's probably where you were, Brian. What is typical as far as campaigning that kind of funding, like for a district? I mean, is it possible to, if someone were to want to work on a task force to see what the options are, so that, I mean, Tim did a grand.
Started a good pull into the community and kind of pull people. I think we've got to go back out and we've got to look at our businesses. I mean, we've got
for
some
sure.
large businesses in town who are invested here.
Yeah.
You know, ConAgra are willing to give us some money. You know, in town, Cargill is a corporation willing to give us some money in town. You know, those kind of things, as well as our banks, our institutions, some of our well-off donors, just privately as well. And we're gonna have to go and kind of feel them out and see what we get there. I mean, if they come halfway with us, that's halfway we don't have to go.
I think all businesses have been hit by this, and probably now is not the time to do that. And they've put a lot of money in our school, and it seems like we've reached out a lot. We really need to brainstorm on this and come together. I think the district needs to fit the bill mostly.
So it sounds like, to me, what we're talking about doing is maybe not going ahead with any of these bids, at least not right now, and instead saying that we want to start a task force to look into some more options. Do we want to, do you guys want to think about, if the task force is the way you want to go with it, what I might recommend is you sleep on it, and then on the 29th, we have it as an agenda item, and we talk about who's going to be on the task force and what the task force would do. Okay? That's just a...
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I think you can maybe tie this in with the strategic plan for the district. Whoever's on that task force work hand in hand with our strategic planners, like, so we're all on the same page rather than having two different plans.
I think something that you've got to do first, because I've had experience in this in many districts, and it's been the same in every district. Teachers do not want to hear about us putting $1 million in on football turfing.
Nope.
That will never fly.
Nope.
I mean, if we were to do that and not give a substantial raise over the next 5 years,
let alone some other issues.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. I couldn't take that on. I mean, of course, if the board told me to, of course I would, but I just know that spending district money on things like that is disaster so far as the teacher relationships.
I agree.
Well, I couldn't, if we have one trailer sitting on any campus and we don't, $1.5 million.
Very true.
Yeah, no.
I would be, I won't say it on camera, but.
I know.
I agree, those trailers need to go, we saw those. And there's nothing wrong with the trailers, it's just the security issue.
We're slowly getting rid of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things, I think we really need to get back to the strategic plan and figure out a direction.
Yeah. I mean, within a year's time, we're looking at just completely redoing this complex, and we still got kids sitting in trailers.
Right,
I mean,
right.
Well,
You know, there was not one dime that the district had to put into the gymnasium. But you can't believe how many people think that it was district money and that it cost teachers raises because we put so much money in that. It's amazing.
And that was a very small, one of my points to that is it was a very, well, two things. It was a very small amount of money, but it was also a very small amount of people that worked on that plan. And so if we were going to look at, when we go forward and looking at facilities as a whole, the district's vision being placed in that strategic plan where people can buy into it, and I think that is, I just think I just think on those social media sites, they'd have a blast posting our strategic plan there where we actually have a vision. And maybe that, we could have some buy-in to what we're seeing. And that would include some of the community that, I thought that one of the things that was really impressive to me, and I truly hadn't thought about it, was, what are you going to do for Beaker? Well, that's great. It is great. But I look at that twofold. What's over there, the infrastructure's not there to redo that over there. But also, it would build a whole bunch of pride if finally I'm an owl. I'm here at the high school and I finally worked my way to this facility. And so I respect all of those opinions. I had not seen or envisioned all of that because I don't have kids at all of those buildings. And so we do need to look at that as a whole, and we need to build a plan for our district's buildings and facilities with the community involved and hearing them and what they need and want for their kids. Our juniors, seniors, sophomores, juniors, seniors, our high school kids right now, they need to be involved in what that plan looks like because we want those kids to live here. We got to keep those kids as adults. So,
and I think I agree totally with all of those. And our strategic plans as we move forward have to be a balancing act.
Yeah.
So that we pay attention to facilities, and we pay attention to recruiting and retaining great teachers, and we pay attention to our fiscal responsibility. It's just such a balancing act.
Again, different people are on specific worlds.
But what the community sees is the buildings, the facilities. That's what they see. We can do all this other stuff and all these. The thing I didn't like about the strategic plan that I was seeing, and all these noble ideas in it, no specifics, but I can say, this is what's going on.
We didn't get far enough. You're not very far enough,
Southeast, this is what's going to happen in the Northwest.
And I hope exactly that we get down to those details.
Would it be possible on the meeting on the 29th then to have an update about where we are at with the strategic plan? Maybe to have some of the key
We can have
players.
each one of the.
Exactly.
I'd like to have a report.
Give a board update, and then at that time, that might
It's gonna be little.
I'd rather just
The committee, I'm under my knowledge, is never met.
Because it's this is going to take a long time.
And on something like that, they're not gonna be all the way updated and, we know that.
Yeah.
So as long as they don't feel any stress.
Then maybe an item for the next agenda is just to decide on a date for a strategic plan retreat.
I think that'd be good.
I didn't do it. I think you guys are over, you need to have one.
Sounds good.
You can look over what's been done and see if you want to change and tweak.
So how do you,
Got it in there.
We'll put
so
that
on the track,
agenda.
what do you gotta do for the action item?
For the item, I think, Harry, our parliamentarian, if nobody moves, we just move on from it, don't
No,
we?
we're done.
Yeah, the dead
I'm going to,
Well,
because
somebody doesn't say something, that
No.
both companies, I told them I would let them know in the morning, because if we were going to go, they were going to start tomorrow.
Let them know we appreciate it.
I'm going to tell them that there was financial issues that pushed us back. We're going to give it some more thought and planning, and I will be back in touch with them in the spring possibly, depending on how bad the COVID gets, how bad the money gets.
Thank you very much for facilitating that.
Thank you.
We got two more items under new business. They are mercifully brief. The first is item D, special board meeting to close the 2019-2020 MPS budget and adopt the 2020-2021 MPS budget. That will be June 29th at 5:30 p.m.
Matt, is 5:30 okay with you?
Yeah, I'll be here at 5:29.
Would you rather do it at 5:45? Would that make it better for you?
It's fine. 5:30 is fine.
No speed. I won't tell you if I get one.
I'll be coming from Osage Beach that.
There's one final item, that's the MSBA update. I've signed myself up. I asked Linda to sign me up to go to the MSBA Delegate Assembly. Part of the reason, there are two reasons I wanted to put this on the agenda. One is that I didn't want any board member to be going forth as a board member and not telling the rest of the board. I think that's not the right way to do it. So I wanted to be sure to let you know that I would be going forth to represent the board and I wanted you to know about it before I did it, okay? Here's what it's all about.
Are they doing that by Zoom?
They're doing
I
it
was reading all about that in Zoom.
from the comfort of my easy
You're
chair.
already in there.
Okay.
Now, Ellen, this might be something where you and I want to coordinate this one, and you and I can maybe watch at the same time. They're expecting me to be the person there, but I might be able to do a handoff. Brian, too, I might be able to get you the same login, and just so that you can kind of see what the assembly is all about. They will vote on one thing, and so I wanted to apprise you of it before anybody votes on it, because as a delegate, you're expected to vote. To my understanding, there is but one thing being voted on here. It's a change to the bylaws. Under Part 1, they just want to change the wording, new recommended language. They have, let's see here. Their current wording is under name and purpose. They say that the purpose of MSBA is to, it is helping school boards succeed. That's the current wording. The proposed wording is helping school boards ensure all students succeed. So again, that's going from helping school boards succeed to helping school boards ensure all students succeed. Does anyone have any problem with my voting in the affirmative on that one? Or anybody's voting in the affirmative on that one? I didn't think so.
What day is that?
Oh, that will be this Friday at 2:20 in the afternoon.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, again, they're already expecting me,
Great.
so it's not a problem. Brian, are you available then? Probably not, it's during working hours.
I was gonna say, no, I'm probably still out by that time.
Well, that's quite all right. I will be happy to let you guys know how it turns out.
You might be able to share the login with me, and if I'm able to log in, I'll be happy to do that, or at least try. But if we can't, they can't, that's fine.
Sounds good. All right.
Thanks.
With that, we need a motion to adjourn to closed session for legal actions involving hiring, training, disciplining, or promoting personnel records, evaluations, applications. We've got one motion. Do we have a second? Second.
If there wasn't one on that.
Hey, Brian. Wait, here's all. Aye. We did this as a roll call vote for the new folks. So that means everybody does it individually. Harry says aye.
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So we'll take a brief break and adjourn to the session.
Needs your signature.
David, if you would just step out, we'll call you in. Sorry, I've been sitting here for a while.
I'm kidding.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Grace.
Your signature.
Okay.
I'm gonna go pack my notes real fast. We need to stand up.
Do what?
Well, we have Dave Delaney that we need to talk to.
You want to sign that?
You want me to take a look and see what?
I just didn't know if there were any questions about the Paris, and I spoke with Randy today, so that's all I was.
I just want to do that.